I was trying to wear my Sornex gift from Bert Sorin today, so I busted that one out.
I did see that, and I think my favorite part about it, not only that you're Jack, but you have the typical John Wellborn 1980s
Yep.
cut, and I really have to. Well, see, if I brought that back, the joke and the coolness would go unfettered because of my beard.
That's true. So, little history. I cut every single shirt like that I wore, or so every shirt that I ever wore under pads, I cut like this because I always thought it looked stupid when I was standing on it, when I would see myself on TV, to where you see like the T-shirt right underneath because my shoulder pads came down so far. And I just, I don't know, it was one of those things I saw that just bothered the shit out of me seeing myself on TV. So that's why I started always cutting the dip in there. And then, I don't know, it's just kind of been the way that I actually mark shirts. So when the shirts are new, I'll wear them. And then when they start to get a little faded, like I actually like them, that's when I put the cut in them. And so I know like the evolution of the black, because we have so many fucking black T-shirts. I'm sure like you, you're like,
oh yeah,
they're almost like gremlins. Like you wash them or you feed them after midnight. And then all of a sudden my wife will be like, how many more black T-shirts? I'm like, I don't know. They just keep fucking showing up. And, you know, like I got 4 Sornex T-shirts. I got this. I mean, people just send us stuff. And then next thing I know, I have like this, I run out of hangers and then I got to go through and be like, all right, I'll just.
Oh, I don't even do hangers. And first of all, I love that you're a slave to the fashion and the branding that John Wellborn has, the sweet cut. Because, I mean, it works too, because you're jacked and you have like a big football neck still. And so it works. So stay with it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Judd Logan back in the days with the headband, like the Rambo headband when he threw. You know, you're just like, okay, you're pulling a Judd. So now, as you know, people are pulling a Wellborn.
Well, I'm just trying to get down. What's your body weight? What are you, about 245?
Yeah, good. I was 235 and then had a little bit extra food. And I was 245 the other day.
Yeah, when I thought you looked about 245, I'm like, man, that'd be a good target weight for me to hit.
There's a little bit more here than used to be. Like the pants are filling out again. And it's like, wow, am I squatting a lot? I'm like, maybe not as much. Carbs.
Well, maybe you're just, maybe you got to get Rudy Reyes to come to town and just shame you into not eating.
I'm finally getting man weight now at 44 years old. I'm finally thickening up.
Dude, you've been thick your whole life, dude. I don't know what you're talking about. So the problem though is, like I see you, like when I saw you down at the Black Rifle Coffee deal, which looked like so much fun. I was like sick to myself. One that like, I need to get on that radar better, man. And I really appreciate you sending me all that stuff. But like it was, I saw you, I was like, fucking, you look like an absolute giant. I'm like, God damn, Bert looks like a fucking man amongst children. And then I realized,
out with Evan.
Yeah, like those dudes are just like not big dudes. And it's just so like for me, I see it and I'm like, I don't know. I can't, conceptually see myself. So
right, but then you walk in and it's like you and Robert Oberst,
Jesus,
and
that guy's a fucking
and Goldberg and freaking Lucas from Grizzly Forge, and y'all are absolute Sasquatches.
That Robert dude is massive.
Yeah,
he's got to be 400 plus pounds.
And his head is giant too.
His head is giant. And then funny Goldberg story. I was playing with the Chiefs, so this would have been 06 or 07. I wanted to go to the Barrett-Jackson. So Jay Glazer has a house in Arizona. He's like, hey, you can stay at my house. One of my buddies is going to be staying there too. You could probably hang out with him. So he gives me like the code. I enter into this, pretty bitchin' place that's like pretty close to the Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale.
It's not one of those like the key is under the third rock and it's like a code house. That's like big time.
Yeah. No, it was like a code house. Like hey, there's, I guess because people come and stay there. And so I go in and I walk in the kitchen and it's fucking Goldberg's his buddy who's staying there and he's selling one of his cars. So I hung with Goldberg for like 3 days. Like went there, like everything. And I saw him and I was like, I didn't want to go over to him and be like, hey, Bill, I don't know if you remember me, but, we hung out for 3 days, like 15 years ago, like.
We're still friends, right?
Right? Yeah. Hey.
Red Lobster?
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be great.
Yeah. And he was a cool fucking dude. He probably would have been like, no, I don't remember that. So I kind of was like, I'll just leave it alone. Just. Like that happened to me like one or two times where I like ran into somebody and I was like, oh no, we've met before. And they were like, yeah, no, I don't remember that. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I kind of watched that one too because my ego is too fragile to be shunned by them. And so I'm just like, how's it going on, Bert? And if they're like, yeah, I know you. I'm like, yes.
Dude, the fact that you always introduce yourself to Andy Stumpf like you've never met him I
It's a
absolutely
great.
fucking love that because that's what I do
Yeah.
with Andy. When I see him, I'm like, hey, Andy, John Wilmer, good to see you. He'd be like, fuck you, you know?
Yeah, I love it. No, I wish I saw him more so I could play the joke more. He'll probably throat punch me one day just for doing it.
Well,
But
he was a little bitch and couldn't fight for shit. And then now he's got into jujitsu, which, just means that he's, which is probably fits good for him. So, he was funny. I'm supposed to drive up and go see him and do his podcast. And he was
Cool.
like, he's like, how are your jujitsu skills? I'm like, well, they're antiquated because I haven't been training, but I'm going to start training just so I can fucking choke you out and be like, how long you been training? I'm still going to fucking lay a beat on you.
Well, it also helps that you're like, NFL Pro Bowler with 20-inch guns and you're a Sasquatch too. So like that's part of the you kind of know jujitsu probably goes a long way.
Well, I did jits back in high school.
Holy
And
shit.
then when I was in the NFL,
How did you even know what that was back then?
so little known. And there was another reason that the guy, this is hilarious. The guy that I did stand up fighting with in high school, because I started martial arts when I was 6, and I met this guy named Nono Labontier, who was like a stand up boxing, but he also did like Hapkido and a bunch of stuff. So I trained with him. Horace Gracie brought Nono in to teach him stand up after, because those guys were only doing their ground game. So when I saw Horace Gracie there, I had met him in the mid 90s. We would go down to the Gracie School down in Torrance on Carson Street. There was a Japanese restaurant called Todai, all you can eat place that we used to go after. So that was the part I really remembered. But we used to go down there and fuck with those dudes. And so that's when I got into jiu-jitsu. And so when I saw Horace Gracie at the Black Rifle thing, that was another thing. I didn't want to roll over and be like, hey, when I was 16 years old, I used to come to your place with Nono. And he probably would. He still knows Nono because Nono's son, Nono's daughter is like the #1 jiu-jitsu player under 18 for a female, and his son's an MMA fighter, so he would remember. But that was another one where I was like, fuck, I met these people decades ago when I was,
Right.
So, but that's when I got into it. And then in the off season, then I boxed. We boxed with the Cal boxing team in the off season, and then when I went to the NFL, when I moved back to California, I used to go down and roll with this guy Joker and Eric Apple and a bunch of dudes down in Orange County. So I did that the whole off season. So like my game, but I was always a pretty skilled boxer and fighter, and then with the ground game stuff, man, like as long as I just didn't fucking gas out, I was usually pretty decent. So then I just got away from it.
I would say that you're kind of like one of those very strange. There's very few of them or us. I don't know if I'm in that category, but like the Kevin Bacon of training. It's like you've been around so long and you've trained in so many different, silos that you're like, I trained with him in 1983, and it's like, but it's obviously legit. But I guess that's what when you're in the iron game or the training world for 30 or 40 years, you kind of like. But my joke was at Black Rifle because people kept showing up that I knew, or like Eric Serrano was staying in my house the week before, and we got talking about a certain person, and it was like, strangely enough, Leslie used to date him. And then he was a customer of mine 15 years later. And then Serrano was his doctor all through Major League Baseball. And you're like, how in the hell do we know the same person from 3 different things? And it's like, oh yeah, because there's like 44 cool people in the world.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my joke at Black Rifle. I'm like, yep, 44 people. Because every time you end up running into someone, like there's all these 19 connections. You're like, well, there's 44 of us. Great.
Well, there's as my buddy Rick from Starling Gear said, when you push out to the fringe, it gets super skinny. Like for example, Todd White, who was just on Rogan. Todd's an artist, lives up the street from me. I sold him my 69 Camaro 14 years ago when he lived out in like North LA. And he just dropped that Camaro off for me to do some work because he's trying to sell it. And then he has a jiu-jitsu school. He was one of Jean-Jacques Machado's first black belts. Jeez. He was on Rogan. It just like the world is so small when you start kind of pushing out and like, it's just, like, class example was we had Jocko on the podcast a couple years ago, and he's like, you don't remember me, do you? And I'm like, fuck. And I had gone to Jocko's jiu-jitsu school to talk to him. They brought me over there, and I met him. We had gone to his place and went out and talked about training, and especially like strength training in terms of like how to use it for jits. And this was like in 2008. And as soon as he said it, I was like, Shit, man, I totally remember you, and I didn't even put two and two together. And but I just wonder if that's from being in the NFL and just meeting so
Sure.
many people where you're like, fuck, dude, I just can't handle this much bandwidth. I mean, shit, we were
Yeah.
sitting in the
Yeah.
elevator at the CrossFit Games in '08,
Hmm.
and I remember meeting you. And then when you brought it up, I was like, I totally remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's again, it goes in, like you say, it's like out on the fringe, and kind of, we always use the thin air. And that's what we talk about. The further you go up the mountain of, not necessarily like status or anything like that, but like the further you go up that mountain, the more difficult the climb is, because you're going in a way down the rabbit hole, but you're going up the mountain to see like what's up there. The air gets thinner and thinner, fewer people could breathe it. But when you get to the top, you realize like all the same dudes are at the top.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you guys were crazy enough to keep going this far. Interesting. And there's like very little competition up there, because they're the people that just want to go super far and super deep for not like really a feasible, rational reason, right? There's most things that people go down the rabbit hole so deeply or go to the top of the mountain. There's a very hard, like, hey, if you do this, you'll be a millionaire one day, or you do this, you'll get all these accolades. It's like, this is some crazy passion that probably no one likes now, but hey, if you're super good at it and you live in this weird space for another 20 years, like, people will want you on a podcast, like in 20 years from now. What's a podcast? It doesn't matter. Just keep going. Like, talk to Pops about it yesterday. That guy was doing grip training to the level that's like still remarkable in the 80s, when there wasn't grip training.
Yeah.
So there wasn't anyone to even know, like, hey, can you do the blob? Can you do the Thomas Inch dumbbell? Could you do the number 3? Because the answer was no, because no one was doing it. Like, I'm going to go pick up a Jowett Amble. Why the hell would you do that? I don't know. It's there.
Well,
I don't think
that's why that's how the blacksmith used to test their strength. Is
Sure.
that they could pick it up. And so your dad, who I always enjoy spending time with your dad. Actually, my favorite part about seeing your dad is I always go shake his hand.
Yeah.
And I like shaking your dad's hand because it reminds me that I have a long way to fucking go. Like when you shake it, it's like there's like inertia, it's thickness. I think it's arthritic and just fucking dense. When you shake your dad's hand, I'm like, fuck, this is the type of handshake. This is what you need to feel. And every time I see him, I'm like, Mr. Sorin, pleasure, great to see you again. And I always go shake his hand, and he's like, And then the hilarious part was a couple years ago, we were fucking around picking up those anvils. And I picked up that 172, and Pop's face lit up. And then he ran over, and he was so excited. And he's like, in his, he's like, a lot of these pussies can't pick this thing up, It was just kind of like, and then I was like, well, maybe we just make that the entrance to Summer Strong. Like, you got to be able to pick up an anvil. And he was like, and then when we were at Winter Strong, every time I saw him, he had on a different hat. Oh, dude,
I like that you noticed that.
Oh, dude. Well, I notice small details about everything.
You're a trained observer.
Yeah, well, dude, I just notice like life for me is in the details, and like
Sure.
things that like. And what's weird is when people don't notice this stuff. Like you notice a cut in my shirt. There's always these little things, and I think it's because life is in the details. Like Rick always, like my buddy Starling Gear. The devil's in the details, and it's the people that notice the details are the ones that are able to make tweaks.
Yeah. And the ones that enjoy life to the fullest, in my opinion, because then you're seeing the beauty and the interest in the mundane, right? Like the little stuff throughout the day. It's like you're wearing a t-shirt, but I'm like, hey, that's pretty awesome. You're wearing a t-shirt that I kind of made as a tongue-in-cheek joke that maybe 10 people have. And you put the stereotypical on-brand John Wellborn cut. Super awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, dude, I am a huge Red Dawn fan.
I know.
And what's hilarious, I mean, so this is, I don't know if you remember.
I think we have a movie rec for the day.
In the movie Red Dawn, they, like the resistance has like radio signals, and they put codes, which they did in Vietnam, and they did it in World War I. Anytime they've had radio, they've always pushed out, and that's how they've communicated is through public radio channels. And in it was like the chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. And so, and all of a sudden when we were in COVID lockdown, this shirt shows up, and I'm like, the chair is against the wall.
Yeah, there's a few that have those that obviously will get the reference, So cool. I'm glad. I mean, you and I have talked about Red Dawn, which it's kind of jokingly, that was like one of my favorite movies forever, and I've said that. And then I was talking to my wife. I'm like, of course, because things got pretty weird last year.
Yeah.
And are still pretty weird. I'm like, of course this would be my favorite movie. Like, you what you asked for, you're probably going to end up living in the field somewhere in Colorado and, wearing snow camis.
Well, the part that always hooks me on that movie is when they go and they visit their dad in the detention center, and he's like, "Avenge me!" And then they take him out and they fucking stand up and they start singing the national, God Bless America, and they fucking gun him down, and then they have to watch that. And like that whole thing at the end when they're fucking just basically just tearing those dudes a new ass, and you remember his brother gets shot and he's sitting on the swing and he's like, "Dad will be here any second." Like, even thinking about it, dude, like still chokes me up. Like, and I know it's like an '80s movie. I'm gonna tear up just even saying it. But like that,
you're 100%, man. I cannot watch that movie. I have not watched that movie in 30 years and not cried, especially the end part. I was like, because I never had brothers, right?
Yeah.
And that was my fantasy of, I wish I had a brother or someone so close that I could sit on a park bench as they breathe their last breath.
Yeah.
Like that's what I fantasize about of a brother being.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Shit.
Yeah, no, dude, it's and I know it's like, the whole thing, but like, I grew up with two older brothers, and like the fact that like that dad was like, fucking avenge me, not like, like, hey, I knew I was hard on you. I always loved you guys. Fucking avenge me. Like that's the type of shit that wakes me up at like, 6 in the morning. Let's go bang some fucking iron, because, that's the example. And those kids were able to survive and do that because their dad was an example. When I found out I was having twins, I was kind of stressed. Needless to say, I find, when your wife comes home and says, "I'm pregnant," and you're like, "Awesome," with twins. What? I don't know anybody with twins. Like, this seems double the work.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's still awesome, but it takes you for a second. So I hit up all these different people that we'd had on the podcast and that I knew that were very successful, that had kids and the whole deal. And I just kind of like, it was kind of a side project that I kind of wanted to write a book on. But then as I got into it, I was kind of selfish with just the information. And I've talked about it on the podcast and some blogs and stuff. But I remember one of the guys I spoke to who was like, both of his kids were lawyers. I think his other kid was a doctor. Made an interesting point. He's like, I was like, "Any regrets, as a parent?" And he's like, "I think I was too hard on my kids." He's like, I like, and then it was interesting because I talked to another parent who was, kids had gotten into drugs and rehab and whatever. And he's like, "I should have been less of his friend and more of his parent. And I should have been harder on him. I shouldn't have let shit slide. I was trying to be their friend." And the individual said, "If you want to be a good parent, be a parent. Your kids have friends all around. They don't need a fucking friend. Be their parent, hold them to a standard. And more importantly, be the be the person that you want them to become." And I think what I've always appreciated, and I've said this numerous times, honoring your family name and your father and your parents is big respect to me. And what you've done at Sorinex with your dad and all that, and like building this legacy, and like even this, keeping this culture of physicality, is that what it is? This physical culture alive. Because, dude, the first time I ever touched weights, I knew I wanted to be big and strong, and I wanted to bang these things. And I've lifted them pretty much my entire life since I was 14 years old. And it's cool to know that, like, I'm not weird like that. To show up and you see this, and like you're telling me stories about you and your dad and all that. And I'm like, shit. Like, one, I'm sad that I didn't meet you guys while I was playing in the NFL. But I figure everything comes around when it's supposed to. But like, I was so hyper focused, and like that's the nice thing about social media is it kind of opens it up. I was like a horse with blinders, where like there was nothing around other than like this moment. And I wonder if social media, I would have been like, "Oh shit, let's go to Summer Strong, let's go meet these people, let's go find these." Because I just had this vision that like there were these monsters out there training, and I was preparing to fight these monsters, and I never and then I just got to see them on Sundays. I wish I had gone and seen them in the off season.
Right. But probably that piece of the blinders helped you amazingly, because that's how it was. I mean, because we're the same age. When I was at South Carolina, my coach, Larry Judge, was he was a great sports psychologist, and that he made you just terrified that your competitors were training harder than you. And he would come up with these wild numbers that these guys were doing. And, we were too stupid to question it because there was no social media to an extent. There was no social media, but there was very internet wasn't like something, there was no YouTube. So he's telling me, "Oh, Aaron Osmus is doing this and this and this at Tennessee." And you're like, "Oh my gosh, like we better get after it." I remember him convincing us that Balazs Kiss, who was the hammer thrower that won the 96 Olympics, but also won the NCAAs and everything, for sure had a 500-pound clean because he was throwing 83 meters. So when I'm trying to clean 350, I'm thinking I'm so far off of what this dude is doing. I have to clean 4 or I'm not even going to be good. And so you have like, and then you're looking later and you're like, okay, you clean 350 pounds at 210 pounds body weight. Well, I just thought that's what you had to do. And I was pissed that I couldn't get 365 at the time.
Yeah.
But you get these blinders because you're just told that this is what it takes. And probably like yourself, you were just like, there's dudes as big and as strong and meaner and you're training harder and all these things. And then you realize you're probably out training 95% NFL all the time.
Yeah, well, I never trained. I'd never trained at a single off season with the team. They wouldn't give me an off season workout deal, and I was like, "Well, I'm not going to fucking hang around here and have you not pay me. Like, if I'm going to go where I want to train." And every year they'd be like, "Oh, so and so made 100% of the workouts. You didn't make any," and I'd be like, "No problem. Let's fucking line up. Let's run the conditioning test. Let's do all of our physical training." And all of a sudden, I'm fucking smoking dudes in the conditioning, to the point where like, fuck, I'm just going to run with the linebackers, or we're going to run with a different group. And,
wow.
And then we go in and we hit these numbers and, hey, shit, dude, you just did fucking 25 fucking dead hang pull-ups. You benched 500 pounds. I mean, all of these numbers just setting it off the fucking chart to the point where they're like, we're still not giving you an off-season workout bonus. And maybe they did, and they're like, fuck, let this guy go and do what he's going to do.
Yeah, like he's doing better.
I used to always show up, and I'd be like, all right, hey, guys, I'm stoked you guys made 100% of those workouts. Let me see where you are in a week. Let me see where you are in 2. In 4 weeks, where are you going to be? And I would walk in and, like, just being like, I'm going to fucking not only, like, train at this intensity, but it's like I'm always amazed when people have this opportunity and they don't seize it. And, I knew it was selfish and whatnot, but I'm like, fuck, man, I just wanted to be the best.
I have a question on that for Bert. Bert, you have a pretty awesome walk-on story. Did Coach Judge start to treat you any different when you were earning the respect of the team and then eventually scholarship?
Bert, tell the story, because I love the story about you lying your way in there. Like I've heard it a couple times and I smile every time. Yeah.
It's so stupid. It's like Forrest Gump. I was too dumb to know any better, basically. So,
which only happens when you're 18 years old.
Or 17 at the time. 17. So I really had no earthly idea what was occurring. So yeah, I was going to go to Appalachian State. That's where I wanted to do, because I wanted to be like a fly fishing guide, a snow ski instructor, like grow a beard, like hang out with hippies, and like not just hippies, like the hot hippies, but like
the hippie chicks.
Yeah, hippie chicks, and like lift some weights and do some cool stuff, but like be super outdoor guy. Weird, right? And kind of a shitty athlete in high school, as in never made any state championships or anything. So I applied late because I'm a dumbass, and I get into App State, but they said you got to come in the spring. I'm like, all right, fine. Like I'll go to South Carolina. That was my backup school. I just applied because it's 10 minutes from me. Fine, I'll go down there. So of course, like the first 6 days I'm there, I just drink my face off and ride my mountain bike around class and just around campus and chase chicks and go to all the parties. And I was like, this is awesome, because I thought that college was like an 80s movie. I thought it was like Revenge of the Nerds or something like that. And I was like, this is great, And then like the 6th day, I wake up pretty hungover, and I'm feeling like, I remember at this point, I'm only 172 pounds at 6'2". So I'd call Pops. I was like, I want to lift weights. And so I called Pops and I was like, hey, I went by the PE center. The equipment's terrible. Can you get me in the South Carolina athletic weight room? Because I know we did some of the equipment. And he's like, yeah, let me give a call. So he calls down there, and Rock Oliver was the strength coach down there. Said, sure, have him come in after the athletes come in, kind of throw me a bone, let me get a workout in. Again, this was 1994, so stuff like that played, So of course I'm 17, so I don't listen to details. I just get done eating, I hang out in my dorm room, and I just go. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon. And if you've ever been to a college weight room, you realize 2:00 in the afternoon, like everybody and their dog is there. So this is August. I'm showing up, like wearing whatever I'm wearing, walk in, there's athletes everywhere. We had one weight room for all of South Carolina athletics. So it's like, there's cheerleaders, football players, baseball players. I don't know. There's just an ass ton of kids. So you could it's the first week of school. So you could just kind of cruise in, and no one knows who's shit from Shinola. So I go in there, I'll start doing some cleans. And I'm like, this is kind of fun. No, they got Alico bars, sweet. And now I'm watching some people doing vertical jumps. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I've never done that before. That's neat. So I stand in a line, very Forrest Gump, right? Just stand in a line and see what happens. So I get there and they measure me and I jump and it's like 29.5 inches. And I was like, they're like, hey, that's pretty good. I'm like, right on. And I just walk off. And then a little bit later on, I'm bench pressing and then they're doing body fat testing. And I was like, oh, that looks cool too. Cause of course I loved Rocky IV. And so all the diagnostics sounded awesome. I'm like, this is cool. They're doing like all these cool Russian diagnostics, which was literally a caliper test. So I walk in, I stand in line and I get there and he goes, all right, what's your name? I'm like, oh shit. Like, kind of sunk now. So I tell him my name's Bert Sorin and he writes thing down on my little page. What sport? Totally make up something. I was like, well, gonna walk on the track team in the spring, thinking I could totally get out of this, make this guy stop talking to me. And he goes, well, what events? I'm like, why does this freaking guy in the weight room give a shit what my events are going to be? I was like, oh, shot put and discus. That's what I did in high school. It wasn't very good, but I'm going to try to walk on. Total lie, total fabrication. And he goes, okay. So he's like, my shirt's up and he's doing this thing on me. And he goes, well, how far did you throw? And I'm like, why is this guy? I was like, well, 42 feet and 134. And he's like, that's not very good. I was like, yeah, I know. I already said it wasn't very good. I sucked. And he goes, well, what'd you get at state? I said, I never made it to state. And he goes, okay. He goes, well, my name is Larry Judge. I'm the throws coach at the University of South Carolina. And I'll see you at practice tomorrow. And I'm like, son of a bitch. I made up a lie to the one person on the athletic or on campus that could call me on. Like the one guy. And he was like, all right, well, I'll see you tomorrow. He has practice tomorrow at 2:00. And I was like, yeah, coach, I'll try to make that, thinking like I'm just going to moonwalk right out of this conversation.
Like Homer Simpson disappearing into the hedge.
Yeah, right back in the trees.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, coach, yeah, I'll try to make it. And he looks at me, he goes, no, if you're going to be on the team, you will make it tomorrow. I said, well, isn't that a spring sport? Because I figured I had like a semester to play this game out and still have a weight room. And then he'd just forget about me. He goes, no, son, you're in college now. This is a full-time deal. I was like, oh, okay. And then so I finished up, got my crap and went home. And I went back to my dorm room because I didn't have a cell phone at the time. I called dad. He's like, how's your workout? I was like, yeah, good. I think I walked onto the track team. He's like, what? And because got to remember, he was like the #1 recruited discus thrower in the nation out of high school at South Carolina.
Who your dad was?
My dad was, yeah. Wow. Yeah, so he was like the guy. So he was the first Sorin ever to go to college, and it was an athletic scholarship and everything like that. Strangely enough, he actually threw further in high school the same year that Mac Wilkins did. It's weird. So he was like the dude, came down to South Carolina. He was their big recruit. You know, so I'd heard my whole life of my dad being like the guy. I never thought of myself in even the same neighborhood. And then I just inadvertently walked on to the track team that he was on, known for. And he's like, hey, you don't have to do this. Like, this isn't kind of like impress me kind of thing. I'm like, no, he goes, well, are you going to go? And I was like, yeah, I'll show up tomorrow, see what happens. And showed up in the parking lot, the Williams-Brice Stadium. We started running. The coach was like, all right, 2 laps around the stadium, like around the parking lot to warm up. I'm like, fair enough. So I'm running like beside these dudes that were just giant. You know, for me, you have to see, you know, guys are 250 to 300 pounds or giants when you're 170.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, you all must be seniors. And both guys were like, no, we're freshmen. I'm like, I am I am done. And they're like, well, how far did you throw? And I told them, and I was like 43 or 44, whatever it was. And I was like, how about you? One was like 60 feet. Other guy was like 58. And I'm like, I'd never seen a shot put go over 50 feet. I was like, I am so boned. And I don't know. I just said, well, all right, I'll show up and do what you tell me to do. And then we hung out that week, and actually me and those other freshmen. And I was like, these guys are pretty cool. And so I kind of wanted to hang out with them. And they were like, one of them, Wolfie, who's still my friend now, he was always like, dude, keep coming out here, man. You're fun to hang out with. I'm like, all right. So Coach Judge would have me, because I had a car, I would have to go pick up all the women throwers who none of them had cars. So I was like the Uber driver before there was Uber, and I had to go pick them up at all their dorm rooms and then go by the training room and fill up all the ice and the water to bring to practice for everybody, because we didn't have water because we trained in a gravel parking lot. And so that was like that for a bit. And Coach Judge would just make me do the shittiest jobs ever. But I also had to do all the training stuff that everyone else did, because he was basically trying to run me off. Like, sure. I was just this dude, this 172-pound guy trying to throw in the SEC. And so he would just load me up. And then he said, I'm not allowed to train with the guys until I could out squat the girls. And I remember the day that I did it, I had to squat 385 for a set of 6 at like 185 pounds body weight. And I only beat Lisa Missapeka and Dawn Ellerby by 5 pounds that day. That's how strong our girls were. And I remember I mean, I was like screaming, like,
seat at the table.
Yeah. And I was just like, I got off the girls' rack. Yeah. And then I got to train with Kevin and Wolfie and those guys. And of course, they're considerably stronger. But then my goal was, don't make them have to change weights too many times. Just don't be the weak link in this whole system. And I remember Coach Judge's brother, Mike, came in one day and he kind of took a liking to me. He realized I was like Rudy, which they actually called me Rudy because the movie had only come out like a year before.
Oh, so not Rudy Reyes.
Not Rudy Reyes.
Okay. That's a different movie.
Yeah. Rudy Rudiger. So they would kind of call me Rudy because I was just this little shitty dude that didn't deserve to be there. And I remember Mike Judge telling me one day, he's like, man, you guys have to be such a cohesive team and support each other so much and be so hungry. Because coach was like, I'm going to redshirt the whole group of you. So we just were training freaks, right? So he's like, the whole thing about this is because every 4 weeks we would do a rep max. It was our day we lived for. And he's like, here's the thing. You have to be so focused. You have to go up at every 4 weeks. You have to just blow your PRs out of the water. If you're supposed to get, 5 reps and one of your teammates gets 4, you have to do 6. Like kind of the whole idea of like you as a collective team will not fail. You have to have each other's back enough. And I just never forgot that. Like, so everyone was always pushing and holding each other accountable. Like you would get up someone's ass if they didn't get their 5. Like you're like, oh, well, you did, say you're supposed to get 405 for 5. Well, shit, you did 385 for 6. Mathematically, you should get 405. Actually, you should probably go to 415 and you should 7 it or 8 it because do you not want this as bad as I do? And everyone, we just did that for years and we were in this bubble and thought everyone thought that way. And then we went to our first SEC championships we show up at as redshirt freshmen. So no one had ever seen us. And I remember walking past the Tennessee coach, Bill Webb, who Aaron Osmus was throwing for at the time. And I heard the coach go, where the hell did South Carolina get a bunch of juiced up bikers? And I was like, this is awesome. And that was like my first time of like, oh, this is branding. Oh, that we could do this PSYOP when we walk into places. And it was awesome because as freshmen, so we had Brad Snyder came in that year as a true freshman, best guy in Canada. So we took 1, 2, 3 at the SEC championships in the shot with 3 freshmen. And then we took 1, 2, 3, 7 in the men's weight, 1, 2, 3 in the women's shot, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the women's weight. With majority of us were freshmen and sophomores. Damn. And so we walked in the first day and we're like, oh, so if you just train really, really hard and believe that everyone is training twice as hard as you, if you just do that and keep your head down and grind and bleed for it, like kicking a lot of ass is super fun. And then that was kind of the basis of all of it. And then it was like, oh, now you could psychologically work on other teams as well, to the point when later we were sponsored by Oakley and stuff like that. It's kind of funny because WWE was big too. We would walk into an indoor track meet. Every one of us were dressed in black with sunglasses on. And we're like 20 years old, like a bunch of fucking assholes, right? But
yeah, but you can only do that when you're 20.
Right. You could do it when you're 20.
Yeah.
And we realized like, this is awesome. And so we just started playing with the whole idea of like, if everyone's going to be these clean cut, by the book kind of dudes, we were going to go in there and just mind screw everybody. And it was super fun. It became like taste and blood in the water. And of course, we got our asses kicked at times too, because some guys could just throw really far.
Sure.
And, but
how much were you weighing at this point? How much were you weighing at this point? So you showed up at 170.
My first semester, I went from 170 to 200. So I put on weight fast because I actually was able to eat. And then the heaviest I got in college was about 220. So I had a hard time. Like I threw most of my college career at 215, 220, maybe 222. And then after I got out in the Olympic trials, I think I got up to 250 one day, but I usually threw at my trials in mid 230s, about what I'm at, a little bit lighter than I'm at now, actually. But that was kind of the thing, was like, that became the very addictive part of it, was if you put in super, super high amounts of work, that's fun in itself. And getting a PR every 4 weeks is super great. The camaraderie of everyone pushing super hard, and then being able to go to the SECs or whatever meets, and knowing that not only that you have a chance of individually doing well, but you're part of this crew that is known as a dynasty crew, that is like, if South Carolina was showing up, it's going to be a long fucking day. Like, it's just, we might take the number 1 spot, but we're going to get our asses eaten, and it's just going to be a fight. And that's in many ways, it taught me how to fight, and it taught me how to brand. It taught me how to just do things that later in business life. And if you see kind of the route that we've taken, Sorinex has been off the same mentality, right? It was do things differently, work super hard, damn the torpedoes, and just come in with freaking black sunglasses on and smash. So maybe I didn't change too much.
Damn.
It's pretty awesome.
No, it's a great story. I've heard you tell it a few times, and every time I just laugh of like you kind of like strolling in here and like being like, oh, maybe let's not notice, and then you run into the one dude who actually can call bullshit on everything, and like it must have been a funny opportunity to like years later be like, so what were you thinking when you were taking the body fat and going through that? Like, what were you like?
Have you talked to Coach Judge about it? Like, what was?
Yeah,
was he trying to get you run you off?
I saw him at the funny part was, so to answer your first thing, did he like give me respect? He kind of treated me like the redheaded step idiot for like years, because he still had his scholarship guys that he brought in. And then after we had some success early on, he was able to bring like the Brad Snyders and these super hitters in. So it was like, I was always kind of a depth guy. Like I was always expected to be that 3rd through 5th place, until like later in my career, where like, cause I had to catch up years. And so, I made nationals like my 2nd year. I was All-American like my 3rd year, whatever, but it was still like, all right, yeah, you're supposed to like keep going. And I remember my first SEC championship, my first throw's a foul, second throw's a foul. I'm freaking out. Like my first time I really competing at the high level, that basically I was told, if you scored the SEC championship, you're going to get some money to go to school, because I was out of money. So it was like, there was a high pressure. And I remember walking up to Coach Judge. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, you're fucking choking. I was just like,
you're right.
That's not the feedback I need. Like, I'm well aware I'm choking. What now? He's like, just relax and do what you do in training. I'm like, okay. But that was the first experience I had with choking. And what do you do when the pressure gets high and, and your heart rate goes up? And I'm not having to get my heart rate up. I'm running sympathetic because it's fight or flight, and I'm freaking out, and then I go, oh, when I calm down, I throw within a foot of my PR pretty easily, because, I get this natural adrenaline dump from this. Of course I didn't fully figure that out at the time, but you start kind of figuring it out. But I had to figure that out at like 18, 19 years old, where probably you figured that out in high school. Just because you were actually good.
Ironically, I was 6 foot 168 my freshman year of high school.
Wow. So you were almost my same size that I was my freshman year in college.
Yeah. So I was 6. And if I were to, and maybe we'll post the picture. I look at the picture and I laugh because, dude, my arms were the same size as my wrists. And like I remember, oh dude, I was so skinny. And my brother used to always joke. He used to take a pencil and he would jam like an orange on top and be like, "This is your neck," and then he would break it. And he'd be like, all the time, he'd be like, "You have a fucking pencil neck." And I was just so skinny. And I went in but I knew, and this is pretty interesting. My brothers were all pretty big and strong. Like they both had played, I was 4 years younger. So I was a freshman in high school. My brothers had gone and were all playing college football. So they were all big, strong dudes. Sure. And I just knew that all the big, strong dudes were in the weight room. I didn't necessarily know what they were doing. I just thought that maybe like just being around the weights, like getting big through osmosis, just like you're surrounded by weights and they just make you bigger. Sure. So I went in there the first day, never lifting weights. And we had the smartest program in the world. You take a bunch of people who never lifted weights, and what do? You got to work up to a 1 RM because we got to find percentages, right?
Daily.
Which is, is why I absolutely fucking despise percentages and don't use them until people are super advanced. But I go in and we have to max on bench. And this dude, Matt Redmond, who was real big, he goes in and benches like 200. And then everybody else benched like 155, 160. I bench 115. And
Nice.
they were pissed. They were like, hey, you can't work out with us because we don't want to take off the 45s. So I like had my own little bench over there, and like, then the percentage was like 95 pounds. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to max out every day until I can bench 135. So I benched.
Yeah, because you don't want to be the guy that can't go wheels.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the thing.
No, and then you're over there lifting by yourself, and nobody wants to, we're not going to take these plates off for you. And I was like, fuck these guys. So I did 95, then the next day I did 105, and then I did 110, and it took me about 7 days to hit 135. But I had never lifted weights before. Like we had done, like the only stuff we had done was like in martial arts or boxing, whatever. We just did a bunch of jumping rope and push-ups.
Yeah.
And like I could do push-ups, but I just wasn't neurologically wired up to lift weights.
Right.
And
It's interesting that you said like the fuck these guys. I would say that probably went through my head more times walking in the ring in college, because that's how I saw the whole thing. All of you guys are supposed to be really good and you're supposed to beat me. And I'm the shitty kid that came out of Irmo that no one counted. I was never, never anything. And so my whole thing was, fuck these guys.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to send someone home today pissed off that the Sorin kid beat him. And that was like my whole just super aggressive. I was like a dog that, like when you see like the horses and the dog's just nipping at them all the time, just annoying them. I was like, I'm just going to do that until I knock off the best guy. And it might be in a couple years from now, but I'm just going to keep doing that until guys like, look, I was like, I used to call it apple cart. Like, I want you to have to go and ride back in the bus with your coach and him bitch at you that I beat you. And then you let that freaking Sorin kid beat you. I'm like, yes, I want you to have to live with that every time. And then your better guy on your team is going to have to live with it next month. And like, that was just what I kind of figured worked for me. That because, I guess there's a part of me that just got tired of sucking. And, I always looked up to the athletes in high school, but I wasn't one. So I'm like, man, I want to be one of those guys, and I suck. So if I'm just super aggressive and chase everybody down, eventually they'll submit.
Well, if, persistence, consistency and persistence, like, I totally, fucking can like identify with that. Like I always had in my mind, that everybody was better than me, and that like like this chip on the shoulder. And I remember one time, this was like maybe my fourth year in the NFL, or I can't remember, it was my third or fourth year. We had gone in and played really well, and I would always call my brother after every game. So I was sitting on the bus. I called him. I was like, "Hey man, did you watch the game?" He's like, "Yeah, it was good." And I was like, "Well, you know what? I was really fortunate that I caught that dude on an off day." And my brother was like, "You've been catching motherfuckers off an off day for years. Why is it that you go play against guys who are going to be in the Hall of Fame and you just happen to catch them on their off day?" I'm like, maybe they just had an off day and that was my day to shine a little bit. And my brother just laughed. And I still remember, I can still see the conversation. But in my mind, I would go out there and be like, this guy is all world. He's going to fucking own me. I'm going to get embarrassed on TV. They're going to talk about how shitty I am. And then you go out there and light this dude up and be like, he must have just had an off day. And I remember my brother saying to me, he's like, if you can catch dudes on off days for 10 years, I think you're going to be pretty happy with everything. And I was like, well, you know what?
Things will pan out.
But yeah, the things will pan out. But what if I catch that one dude on his day? And my brother's like, well, I guess that's what you train for. Everybody has an umbrella for a rainy day. You got to know when that's coming.
Yeah.
But
that's great, man. But it's the same thing, right? It's just you get overly prepared and prepared mentally for fights. And, the key is if you're fighting a bigger, stronger opponent, do everything you possibly can to change the strategy of it and to create their off day. Right. And all is what you could be, but ready to perform, and you just let them do their life, and maybe they won't be ready for you that day.
Yeah. And then in the training space, I was real fortunate in that, you hear people be like, well, I peaked out at this. I couldn't break this plateau. There really wasn't a plateau. So I started when I was 14, And I feel like I got stronger every single day that I walked in the weight room until, they fucking basically I didn't get a chance to go in the weight room anymore for a professional team. But I remember, like I benched. So that first day I benched 135, I benched 315. So I put 200 pounds on my bench when I was a senior, 4 years.
Oh.
So I went from 115 to 315. And then the next year in college, I think in the middle of my second year, I benched 405. And then my senior year, I benched 500. So I went from 315 to 500. So I pretty consistently was putting 40, 50 pounds on a bench. Went from 165, and then when I went to left high school, I was 255. So I put on 90 pounds. I grew from 6 foot to 6'4". And then in college, I grew from 6'4" to 6'6", and went from 255 up to about 305, 308 pounds.
Jeez.
And so just like every year as I got bigger and stronger, and what was amazing was like we still ran, and I was I threw the shot and did some disc. But the only reason I did it was I wanted to run on the track team because I had this idea that if I could run hurdles, I would always be fast. So the deal that they made is they're like, hey, we'll let you train with the track team in the off season. You can run with them, but you have to throw the shot in the disc. I think I threw like 48 feet when I was a senior in high school.
Further than I did when I actually cared about. That's cool.
So, and that was just like, hey, come over and throw 10 times. And then I could go back and run. And I had this vision. I was like, man, I'm going to be a hurdler, which is fucking stupid to me now. But like that, I like, we did all this stupid training, and like, it was so, I loved it. But I had this idea that, there's a lot of big, strong dudes out in the world that are sitting at bars, that the difference between big, strong dudes and big, strong dudes that are fast is big, strong, fast dudes get a chance to go out and play and get a scholarship and play at a high level. And I always had this like obsession with speed. I remember I was in high school and I went to the library and checked out a book on speed training. And then I drove around, and I remember I was 16 years old. I drove around looking for a downhill grade on grass. So I finally found this like long kind of sloping downhill grassy thing that was over near the high school. And so I'm out there on a Saturday and I'm running downhill trying to get faster. And like my buddies drive up and they're like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, I'm trying to get faster. I read this book. And like, I think back on this stuff and I'm like, man, like nobody would fucking believe this, that like, like literally I went to the library and you're like, where's the books on speed? And you went and had to go and read this book, and it was like talking about like all these different training principles.
Surprised you found one.
Well, dude, I was pretty good at the library. I knew my microfiche and the Dewey Decimal System, and but yeah, like reading all these articles and trying to find this stuff up and calling people on the phone. I was super fortunate to go over and start training with Zangus.
Oh yeah,
and then he had stacks because he advertised in all the old muscle magazines for marathon. And like all the powerlifting, everything. So he just had stacks of magazines. And so we would go over and lift weights. And then like when we were done or after, like whatever, we would like sit there for like an hour and read all these old bodybuilding and like fitness that's what was so interesting is like I saw that stuff, and all I knew was that those guys that I saw there, like they were so physically impressive that I thought like in my mind, like, that level of physicality would translate to being able to be good at something. And I remember I was pretty young. Like this is before I started, I went to high school. And the reason I started playing football was because we got to lift weights. But I remember when I was 13, I said to my dad, I was like, hey, I want to lift weights. Like this is really important to me and I don't know why. And he's like, it's stupid. Idiots do that. They just count to 10 over and over again. So then I convinced my mom to drop me off, and she would take me to like 24 Hour Fitness, and they had like the $8 membership. And I went in there and I just like saw big dudes and tried to do some shit and didn't know what I was doing. And I was like, and like nobody. And I remember my brothers were training and like never once were like, hey, if I'll teach you something. Cause they're probably trying to figure their own shit out. But I remember like, it was just like, I didn't know why. And I remember telling my dad, I'm like, I don't know why this is going to be important, but this lifting weights thing and this training thing is going to be important in my life. And I remember him just fucking rolling his eyes. And
crazy. Like, I mean, arguably that's one of the most important decisions you've ever made in your life. Yeah. I mean, that's football and this and that, your business now, and you're like, it's crazy. That's why I look at Pops too and go, gosh, like if that guy would have never put his hands around a barbell,
But he was big. I mean, he was what, like 275, 280?
No, he was light. I mean, early on, like The heaviest he got in college was 217.
Oh, wow.
It's 6'4", 6'5".
Oh,
So he
wow.
was a skinny dude like me too. Like he was 200 pounds in high school. Like he was just a big, tall, skinny guy that loved Olympic weightlifting. He was good at discus, but loved weightlifting, and he never correlated the two. He didn't, he was going to the York picnic and York senior nationals and all this other stuff in the mid '60s, seeing Bednarski and
Yep.
Szymanski and all those guys, Grimick, like he's did all that stuff. And then he's like, I keep throwing this discus thing and it keeps going really far. And I'm going to go back and do some cleans and snatches and front squats. And then he goes, and then this discus thing keeps getting further. And then he's like, in this South Carolina place, asked if I want to go to college. Wasn't really planning on going to college, but I guess that sounds like summer camp. That sounds fun. And so he came down, and you look at it and you're like, dude, it was all because he just loved lifting. There was no big plan. And, he's like, later, he goes, I never even thought to lift sports specifically for throwing the discus, which was my job in college. He goes, it just so happened that all the things I enjoyed doing made me a good discus thrower.
Yeah, everything like rate of force development and power and all that. I mean,
yeah.
Wow.
I got a question for you, John, based off that 500 number. And Bert, you can throw your experience in as well. Science and practice, big part of their research is the strength curve, where shot put throwers, I believe, is a sport, but they keep getting stronger, and then as their bench press went up.
The way that the study worked was that they found that it was 200 kilos was the optimal bench press to be able to throw the shot, and the time and the effort that it took for them to get to 230 kilos reduced their rate of force and their speed, and they actually threw the deal less because they were trying to overcome inertia on like an 18-pound shot. Is that what it is, 18 or 16?
16.
16.
16,
So,
yeah. Go ahead.
No, in that, John, you hit 500, and then did you think I got to get more, or did your speed experience
that's a really interesting,
and fighting come into play?
So that's a really, really interesting thing. So I had this idea that I had to be as big and strong. So I squatted 6'10" when I was 19. And I cleaned, so I full cleaned 172 and a half, snatched 130, and then I basically power cleaned 405. Obviously, because it's easier to power clean 405 than it is to actually get underneath 405.
Totally.
Yeah, and I was like just a big fucking reverse curl. So I had this idea, and so when I went in as a rookie, I got drafted and I got hurt, as you know, and they were like, hey, we need you to get up to like 320 pounds. And I was like, ooh, okay. So I started eating a bunch. I stopped conditioning, and I lifted weights, and I got to the point, I think I benched like, I think it was 525 for a triple.
Yeesh.
And I was fucking like 326 pounds, I think, that day that I weighed it. And I was big as a tank. And I had this idea. I was like, I'm going to be so fucking strong. I'm going to be like this powerful dude. And then we went out to practice. And I remember they hiked the ball, and I took a step back because they had me playing right tackle. No, I was playing left tackle. I remember I took a step back, and this dude ran around me like I was standing still, like I was a big planet. He was fucking orbiting me. And I had this I had this like scared epiphany that like I had somehow abandoned speed for size.
Yeah.
And everything I knew about, power to weight ratios and all the shit that I had known, like I had somehow got romanced into this idea that like it's bigger and stronger. And I went back, and I remember like mini camp ended, and we had probably 6 weeks off before training camp. I remember I went back and pretty much ate like a salad for lunch, had a little bit of chicken, a little bit of rice, and then I would go, and this was in Tampa, so it was real hot, and I would go out and I would run, like just do sprints for like 2 hours at night. And
Wow.
I ended up coming back at like 306, 308 pounds, which is where I'd always played. And my bench came down a little bit, but not very much. And all of a sudden they were like, I thought you were going to come in 320. And I'm like, you know what? We'll see how this works out. And then I was a starting left guard within 2 weeks and went on and started for the rest of my career. And it was just, and then, so what I figured out was, for me personally, there was benchmarks. I remember it was 5 sets of 5 of 495 and 405 on the bench in sub 15 minutes was kind of my deal. Was I would set those up, I'd warm up, and I'd do 5-5, and I'd go back, and it was 25 reps, alternating sets, sub 15 minutes. And then if I could do 10 dead hang pull-ups with 90 pounds between my waist. And I had all these little tests that like I would train the whole off season to get back to. And as soon as I hit those numbers, I knew I was fucking ready. And
Yep.
so I ended up creating this, and like I stopped getting, like I could still bench heavy, but like it just wasn't as important being able to move 405 for 5 violent reps and being able to do that 25 times over the course of, let's say, 7.5 minutes.
Yeah.
That was really important. The pull-ups was an interesting one. The sprints and the running. I remember the day we were running 60s, and Raphael used to run with us, and I almost fucking beat him. I reached out and touched him, and he got scared and kept running. And like that was the day I knew. I mean, I verted. I think I was over 30 at the combine, and I was pretty consistent over 300 or over at 300 over 30. So when I was 26, they had just got a bod pod in Philly, and I was the only dude that they'd ever tested at that point that was over 300 pounds, sub 10%, and I was 8% body fat.
Jeez.
So I was 282 pounds of lean muscle in that day.
Holy cow.
And the guy was like, and he even said, he's like, we've never tested anybody with this machine over 300 sub 10. And I was like, all right. And I stepped in there, and the dude was like, well, this is our first one.
I remember when I saw you at the CrossFit Games, you were right at 300-ish, and you were strangely lean. I remember because I think I was like 260 around that time, but I was carrying more fat because I was going after Highland Games, and I always had a hard time carrying that much weight. And then I went pro, and then it was like, all right, you just got to gain as much weight as possible. These weights are super heavy. There's no running. So what I found, and same thing, my weights, my strength went up, but my throws didn't get considerably better. Like maybe the heavyweight did because I had more to counter with, but I put on some fat for sure. I remember getting in the elevator that day. I'm like, holy shit, that guy is tall, he's big, and he's lean. Like, thanks. I mean, you're able to carry that very well. But to kind of talk to your first thing, Tex, I mean, I had strength numbers. For me, I always felt like I was the weakest guy on the field. So it was just like, go, 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 go. And I believed that everyone had these stupid numbers, and it turned out like I was relatively strong. I just didn't think it because the guys I trained with were freaks. We had, like, again, Brad Snyder, and you'll understand this stupidity of numbers: 6'5", 265 pounds, 440 hang clean, 429 for a triple, Jesus. 460 behind the neck jerk for a triple at 21 years old, 330 power snatch, 550 raw bench, and 620 for 7 in the squat. And we just kind of stopped him there just because.
Jesus.
Yeah. And that was my roommate, right? So that was the standard of, like, we knew Brad was strong, but like we had Kevin Mannon, who was almost as strong. And then we had Wolfie, who was almost as strong. And then we had 4 guys that squatted 620 for 7 reps. Wow. The same day. And so, like, when I did 550 for 5, weighing 210, I was like, I mean, like, sorry guys, I didn't go 6 plates. You just don't realize that, like, you're probably in some relatively rarefied air. So I just always believed that you had to be 265 or bigger, and stupid numbers. But what I found is later, as in my track career, one year, 2001, I threw really far at like 227 pounds body weight. And I just had a good feeling of it. The next year I decided I want to weigh 250 or whatever, weigh 250. The next year I weighed 250, and I dropped like 3 or 4 meters. But it was Judd Logan who told me, he said, hey, figure out, he's like, use these 2 years, 2002, 2003, to get as big and as strong and just pack on that muscle, pack on that strength. And he's like, 1 year out from the day that you throw the Olympic trials, get within 5 pounds of the body weight you want to be at when you throw at the trials, and stay within 5 pounds of that. So you get used to the body weight, and you're able to create a more efficient machine instead of going up and down all the time, because that changes ratios, it changes balance points.
Yeah, leverages.
He's like, get where you're good at that. So I decided about 232 to 235. And then I went up like 4 or 5 meters that year, because then I just got good at that body weight, and I didn't lose the strength I had at 250, 260, like maybe a little bit, but that was kind of like you said, your bench went down, but your body remembers what that was like. And your ego remembers what it was like. You're like, I'm not afraid of 525. Like, no. I've done it before. Oh, 20 pounds lighter. Yeah, but I've still done it before. Yep. So for me, that was kind of what worked for me, but I had to like ramp up, get big numbers under my belt, and then come back down. But it was always, like you said, it was a speed thing. And then the one of the things I was talking to Don Babbitt, who was Adam Nelson and Reese Hoffa's coach, shot put. I'm wanting to say he was telling me it was about 15 meters per second that a 70-foot shot was traveling at. So you look at that and you go, well, even a fast bench press is about 1 meter per second.
Yep.
Like on the tendo. So you're going, it kind of makes you wonder, like even doing a speed bench, you're still such a lower percentage of the speed, the absolute speed that you're moving a 16-pound shot. Does it really correlate? And sure as shit, a 0.3 meter per second super heavy bench isn't.
Yeah.
So it's just really interesting. So what I've kind of learned more is that, the big bench is to build a shoulder stability. So you have a platform to shoot off of, that you have the structural integrity when you're when you're in those positions under that type of velocity, your body doesn't tear apart.
Yeah.
And that's, in talking to Bill Gillespie as well, his world record bench presser.
Yeah. What did he bench? What did he do? 1050 or something?
1050, 1070, something like that at 61 years old, lifetime drug free, like crazy.
I watched it. If you look at his leverages, his arm, he must have about a 28-inch arm, and he's super barreled. So when I watched him do it, he was like, pink. I'm like, God damn it, he was built to bench.
Built a bench. Well, the funny part was, as he and I were talking, he said the most he ever benched in college was 365. And he squatted 1,000 back in the day.
Jesus.
And deadlifted into 7. So he was first a deadlifter, hurt his back, couldn't deadlift, squatted 1,000, like walked it out with the little beepy thing that goes on your leg that tells you when parallel is, and squatted 1,000, and then got to the point where he wasn't able to squat anymore. So decided he wanted to start bench pressing, but he knew he sucked at bench. And then over the next 25 years, got to be the best bench presser ever, which is just crazy. But his whole point of how he viewed bench pressing for football, which I'd be interested to hear what you'd say. He said the whole point of it isn't for explosiveness or anything else. It's for shoulder stability, so you could express that power that you have with a stronger unit, which I thought was an interesting way of looking at it.
So 14 years old in Zangus's garage, I used to just I used to ask questions, not to be a smartass, like, oh, why are we doing this? No, I'd be like, why are we doing this? Like, just because I had an inherent, desire to learn. And, to the
Coach
point.
Judge used to yell at me all the time about that. He was like, stop questioning me. I'm like, I really want to know.
Yeah. And like with, I think that's why when I retired and people started asking me about training and performance, I had this really detailed understanding of what worked for me and what I could do. And so when CrossFit hit me up and asked me if I wanted to help them, help them evolve their technology and how to train athletes, which was what Glassman asked me. Hey, can you come help us, basically like evolve this technology, which I always thought was an interesting point because I never thought training is a technology, but that changed my whole mindset. But so I'm 14 years old, I'm sitting in there, and Zangus busted out this, Fred Hatfield safety squat bar. And I was like, oh, it's pretty neat. It's got a collar on it. And he's like, yeah, it was invented by a guy, but Fred Hatfield squats. And so he showed us what Hatfield squats. I'm like, well, who's Hatfield? And he said, Dr. Fred Hatfield, Dr. Squat. And then we knew who he was because we had the magazine where he was in Hawaii and squatted that 1,042. And he told us the story about, he was wearing, marathon, wraps and the whole deal. And, he also claimed that, he might've had tennis balls taped behind the back of his knees, which is funny. I asked Fred and he fucking said no. They told me how shitty George's suits were. But so he did, he goes, Fred Hatfield's a big believer in compensatory acceleration. And like, I remember, dude, honestly, like I can, like, this is like a sliver in my mind. I remember this conversation. And so he mentioned it and like, I was like, oh, okay. And then I remember, George had 2 daughters, who didn't lift weights. And so he always brought all these kids over, like high school kids that were all pretty big and strong to come over there and train. And so like if his wife and daughters went out, he'd always call on like a Saturday and be like, hey, what do you, after we'd get done training, he didn't ask us when we were training, but later on he'd call and he'd be like, hey, can I talk to your dad? And he'd be like, hey, is it cool if we, go out, I take John and the boys out to dinner, which is strange. He's never asked me. And Dad'd be like, hey, you're going out to dinner with George. I'd be like, oh, cool. So he would take us to this Brazilian barbecue place, which was actually right down the street from the Horace Gracie place, right on, on Torrance Boulevard. And so when we were
Very
sitting there,
stereotypical.
yeah, I was like, man, I remember this. I remember we were eating these steaks, and I asked him, like, what's this compensatory acceleration thing? And he pretty much, in way too many words, that's a lot easier just be like, his mechanical advantage increases, so does speed. So he was like, as you bring the bar down, most people, they press as hard as they can, and then they slow down to kind of get to a nice and easy kind of lockout. And he's like, you have to be violent with the weights. Every time you lift the weights, I want you to try to break them. I want you to literally, as the weight's coming up to where the point where all of a sudden now my strength curve is changing, I want you to continue to accelerate, and I want you to try to break the weights. He said, don't lift weights like old people have sex, slow and careful. And his comment to me was like, I want you to be so violent with the weights that the weights, or that the iron remembers you, and people are nervous. Like if you're training in an environment and people don't come over to you and say, dude, you're going to hurt yourself, you didn't do it fucking right. So I had this like violence. Every time I touched the weight, I was like, you know what, wait, the iron's going to remember me, and I'm going to break this motherfucker. So I started working on compensatory acceleration. And when I went out to go
and that
play,
wasn't with any accommodating resistance bands, chains, or anything like that. That was just
was just trying to break the fucking weights.
Yeah.
And then when I would go out there and play, all of a sudden, when I would bring back to go punch people, I was thinking compensatory acceleration is mechanical advantage, as mechanical advantage increases, so does speed. And then I would aim for 4 inches past the point, which I was just going to punch them, and I would try to punch my hands through their chest. And that was why, I mean, shit, I remember Michael Strahan, when I saw him at Tony's deal, Stray was like, I used to sit in meetings when they would do scouting reports, and they would fucking circle you and be like, if this dude punches you, he's going to fucking kill you. And he's like, dude, he goes, we would go into our scouting reports for the Eagles when you were playing there. They would always circle you and be like, dude, look out for this motherfucker. He's going to hurt you with his hands. My hands were fast because I grew up boxing. So we did endless speed bag. So my hands were fast. And my brothers and I on car trips, I couldn't read in the car. So we had to find games. But my parents would get pissed if we were too loud because my dad didn't like to listen to the radio. So we would just sit in the back and play Buddy Knuckles or Hot Hands. And that's what we would do on road trips. So I got really fast just having quick hands, and I fought. And then I got to this point where I could move my hands, and this acceleration piece, that piece was important. But actually the biggest component for my hand speed and all the other shit that I learned playing football was actually throwing med balls.
Yes.
So that piece, Charlie Francis. So when I ruptured my patellar tendon, Mauro De Pasquale put me in touch with Poliquin, and all Poliquin wanted to know was asked me was all the GH I wasn't taking. He's like, you need 18 IUs to GH. And I was like, well, I don't even know what fucking GH is. So I hang up with him because he won't talk to me unless I'm taking 18 IUs. I call Mauro back, and I'm like, hey, what's this GH IU thing? And he was like, oh, fuck. So then he puts me in touch with Charlie, and then I called him, and then that's how I got into the EMS devices, but also all of Charlie's GPP medball work. And we started talking about speed, and that's where I got all of like the speed stuff we use for Power Athlete, was based on this idea of either you're like, if you want to run fast, you have to run fast. Running slow isn't going to make you fast. And he echoed what Zangus said, where I once asked George, I was like, there was an article about Paul Dillette. You remember that big fucking black dude with like the crazy neck, and he never lifted weight over 65%, and he was jacked. So I asked George one time, can you get jacked lifting lighter weights? And George was like, if that was the case, why the fuck would we lift these heavy ones? Shut the fuck up and go lift. And so like all this stuff of like overcoming speed and this, and we did a ton of med ball work, and we would fucking throw these things. And to the point where I remember at the Eagles, my offensive line coach was like, brought in a camera, and he's like, hey, can you film? I want to film all your med ball work that you do with the sets and the throws and all the shit that you do. And he actually made it into clinic film and used to take it to clinics and show and be like, hey, this is how, all that stuff. So there was like a combination of like you said, there was like the compensatory acceleration when I squatted. I mean, I like, we would go train in other gyms or like, commercial places or whatnot. And people would be like, you're going to hurt yourself trying to fucking do that. And I'm like, I'm trying to vertical jump this fucking weight out of the bottom for 600 pounds on my back for reps. And, and then trying to like fucking like clang the weights and try to fucking break these things. And I think that violence, and you guys have heard me say it before, but like I never really thought of myself as a football player. I just thought of myself as a master of violence. Like violence is really like a calming thing to me, like being out in these violent situations. Like I'm sure you've seen like people start pushing and getting like angry and all these dudes get pumped up. I'm like the dude in a violent situation that gets like an insane level of like clarity and relax. And I'll be like, oh, what's going on? I'm like, we're going to go over there and fucking murder these dudes. You guys ready?
Because you got the talent and the understanding of it, and it's kind of funny. You talk about breaking the bar. That was the same things Pops taught me from day one. And I actually got, I won't say in trouble. I think I've said this before. I went to middle school or high school, wherever, I think ninth grade. Went and I was doing like a high pull, clean grip high pull in like high school gym. And the coach, he goes, well, anybody could do that much weight if they cheat like that. He's like, you got to slow it down and feel the burn. And I'm like, well, so I go back and tell Pops, I was like, hey, Coach so-and-so says I got to slow it down. And he goes, you tell Coach that I'll let you train slow when it's better to any sport to be slow, that you're actually better at the sport if you're slow. He goes, I'll allow you to move the bar slowly at that point. And I went back, and then at that point, the coach pretty much didn't talk to me for the rest of my high school career because he thought I was an asshole, which whatever. But the first day I trained at South Carolina, I was doing cleans and I was just ripping the shit out of the bar. And one of the other athletes did say that. They're like, oh, you're like, slow down, because they didn't know what they were talking about. Mm-hmm. The coaches certainly did, but the athlete didn't. I'm like, is this like a thing? But that was what Dad always told me. He was just like, attack the bar, rip the bar. And then I used to use the term dent when I would teach cleans. For me, it made more sense if I thought less about pulling the bar, and my cue was dent the earth. I would push so hard on the earth that I wanted to put 2 dents in it where my feet were. And so long as I just thought, whatever weight I have in my hands, if I'm like Hulk caving in the earth under me, under my feet, generally the bar went up really fast. And so that was always, it's interesting. We have some of the similar terminology, but that was always my thing too. I never got really big, because I didn't really do hypertrophy work till I was in my 40s, real hypertrophy work. But before that, it was just break the bar, move it as fast as possible, bend this $800 Lico bar if you can, because you put so much stink on it. And then strangely enough, you can generally get pretty good at stuff.
I asked George one time about lifting slow, and he's like, don't do that. You'll get splinters in your ass. And I was like, why? And he's like, and he looked at me and he's like, from sitting on the fucking bench.
Boom.
He's dude, I am, George has since passed away. He was like such a salty old gruff dude. Like I would have loved to have had him on this podcast. He was like the king of these fucking one-liners. Like it didn't matter if it was 8 a.m. or 2 a.m. Like he was fucking just salty and would zip off these one-liners. Like, so when we would go over there, George was in the Navy. And he would make this coffee, which he called, this is how fucking men drink coffee. But it was like this Greek naval coffee where his joke was that the coffee was done when the spoon stood up. Right? So he would pour us this black fucking sludge, and we would have to drink these coffees. And like, I absolutely despised coffee. I didn't drink coffee. I only drank it when I was over there when he poured it, and I did my best to try to get rid of it. And then I didn't drink coffee in my entire college. And it wasn't until like my second or third year in the NFL, we went to like some nice Italian restaurant, and they're like, oh, do you want an espresso or a coffee or whatever? And I was like, yeah. And the guy brought it anyway. And I was like, I took a sip and was like, oh, this doesn't like taste like
this doesn't taste like
this doesn't taste like this fucking black sludge. And like it was a real, like I've since now I can cherish drinking coffee, but it was so funny that like we had to drink this fucking sludge. And I remember many times the workouts, like we would get there at 9. Some days we wouldn't leave till 2. And George would order sandwiches in the middle of these workouts. Like we would do fucking 30 sets on the squat. And I remember the funniest thing was like when he told me, he's like, if light weights worked, we wouldn't lift these heavy ones. And then his ultimate dig was like, if you were in there training and, you got underneath the weight. And like at the time, I don't know if I had, at 14, 15, 16 years old, you're thinking about everything else, right? And like now I would just basically be able to flip the switch and fucking go in and have that high level of clarity to be able to execute this. But sometimes, as a kid, who knows, we're distracted, whatever. And so like he would like be like, what the fuck's going on today? Your fucking squat looks awful. I'm like, well, what should I do? He's like, you know what? You should take some weights off and do a form day. And I was like, but I thought you said everybody like everybody lifts light weights well. It's the heavy ones that distinguish. He's like, yeah, that's the case. Why don't you just take it off and have a fucking form day? And like he would say that, and you'd be like, okay, I need to get my shit right. I'm gonna drink this black sludge, and I'm gonna go over and fucking, turn on the music and fucking pump it up. And it was like we wanted to go in there, and there was a high standard because he would train with us. He'd be in there with his he'd throw a suit on, and he'd be squatting 800 pounds. So I remember the first time I went over there, I got there a little early, and they hadn't unracked the bar. So I was like, man, why are they storing those weights up on that bar like that? And I didn't dream that actually dudes had squatted that. Like I watch these guys pull these monster weights, and and you see this and you're like, oh. And so every time I see any of the Sornick stuff that's like physical culture, that word is so impactful because when I think about it, going into your guys' fucking Hall of Fame and all that stuff in history, and I think about this culture, I think that culture is not forged in chat rooms, and it's not forged on social media, and it's not forged in fucking emails and whatever. It's a 14-year-old kid there watching an old man squat 800 pounds, asking him questions, and the smell and the sound of the iron clinging, and knowing that when I heard that clank, so even with collars on, you still, if you were doing compensatory acceleration right, you would still hear the clank. Yeah. And that click of the bars, and going in the chalk and the dust and the smell, and that fucking feeling of hitting the bottom and basically breaking blood vessels in your eyes. It's funny, before my senior year prom, I have a picture, my eyes are fucking completely red because we squatted heavy that morning and I blew all the blood vessels in my eyes. And just that type of shit where you're wearing that as a badge of courage. And to me, it's that physical culture of people are like, oh, you still train weights? I'm like, well, yeah, because I like to be physically strong, and I like to do shit where I don't need people to help me do things. That's always been important to me, just to be a big, strong dude, and not just a big dude, but somebody that can move, and dangerous individual. So it's been something that's permeated through my entire life, and it's always cool when you go to Summer Strong and get a chance to go hang out with you guys, that you're not a fucking weirdo.
Well, that's the fun part of talking to you about the same thing. And you were further along than I was, but it's the same kind of thing, talking to Pops, or watching Pops back in the day, or I remember him tearing people's workouts out of their hands and telling them to leave the gym because they had asked him to write a training program for him. He'd written it, and then he went in there one day and they're screwing around doing something else, and he took it from him. He's like, listen, people know that I wrote your training program. If you're doing all this bullshit, you're going to suck, and I don't want my name on it. I don't want them to think that a Richard Sorin trained person was weak, because if I wrote it for you, it's going to work. But if you're going to F around and do this, give it back. You go do your own shit. And he did that for years. Or Dusty, who still works for us, I remember him 12 years old, and he came in one day, he was watching us lift, and he's like, can I lift with you guys? We're like, no. For a year, we're like, no, you could go over there and just watch and just learn. And that was when I was at my height, Pops was still strong as crap. And the point of it was no, you don't get to just jump onto this. You have to want this. You have to want to be around this so much. And you see the little interactions and how this stuff works. And he'd later say, the best thing you ever did was not let me lift with you guys, because I had to understand what that meant, what that badge was. When you're finally let in the group, we know you were held accountable. You're held accountable as everyone in the group. I don't care if you squat 200 pounds or 800 pounds. You're a part of the group. And just like Mike Judge said 20 years before, if this guy misses a rep, somebody has to make it up, because this is how this is going to roll. And that's the stuff that was awesome and exciting. And that, when you get that group that gels together and everyone wants to outlift each other, of course, but then it was also a group win if someone smashed a big weight, and it was a group loss if someone missed one. That was the thing. Right. And, it's so funny. And Pops, he's almost 71 years old. He had to get his gallbladder taken out about a month ago.
Oh,
and he's again.
Did he take it out himself?
He was trying.
Yeah.
No, he didn't want to go to the hospital. I'm like, but dude, something's wrong. He's like, but I think I hit myself with a kettlebell or something. I'm like, yeah, man, maybe let's just get you on in there. Like, you've had a fever for 3 days. Let's see what's up. So he had a, emergency surgery, got out. And they told him he had like 3 or 4 weeks before he could lift anything over 5 pounds. It's been 4 or 5 weeks at this point. And I was like, he goes, yeah, kind of sore today. I was like, oh, what's going on? He's like, I just lifted yesterday. He goes, I went up 50 in the squat though. And I'm like, of course you did, 71-year-old man. And he's like, yeah, I squatted 200. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm like, you had surgery. I was like, how's those incisions doing? He's like, they're fine. But it was like, no change. There's literally like, he had to go to the hospital for a couple days and get some stuff done. And then then he was surprised. He's like, I was kind of sore, but I did, I'm doing rows again. And like, he's just about that life. People use that term very loosely or inaccurately in many ways, but it's like,
well, they use it just very generally, or like, like I always think like that's a comment that you use very sparingly.
Yes.
And the funny thing about your pop, and I literally just had this conversation with my mom about an hour ago. People, and I think I stole this from somebody, but I'll own it if somebody gives it to me. Like people, don't stop training because they get old. They get old because they stop training. And that was the one thing, like, so, at Zengus's funeral, I guess he had since been divorced, was living in an apartment, whatever, but he had his weights in there, and, he had a heart attack on the bench, underneath the bench.
Wow.
So they came
Well,
in.
That's what Pops has said. He's like,
he was pinned underneath weight and, was fucking dead and bloated. And so like they were telling the story at his funeral, and like, like people, like my mom was like, do you think that was in bad taste? I'm like, no, not at all. Like that's probably how the man wanted to go out. And, like that was what he loved to do. Yeah. And the fact that he was in his kitchen bench pressing and he had a bench in his kitchen is even more fucking awesome.
So yeah. Well, you remember Brad and Wade Gillingham, the Gillingham brothers. I mean, I think he's pulled 400 kilos in competition, like more than any other person ever. Wow. But his dad, Gail Gillingham, who was a all-star NFL super monster, he ended up dying. I remember the name. Yeah, he was one of the first guys in the NFL that were like really, really strong and like lifting guys. And I think he was a Packer, and he ended up dying. And he ended up dying a few years back in the squat rack doing like 700 something pound partials at like 65 or 70 years old.
Damn.
And I'm talking to Brad, and I mean, all three of his sons have been professional strongmen, professional weightlifters, this and that, and all of them are like, well, that's how the old man would have wanted it, and you're like,
but that's that physical culture thing. I mean, they like my dad never lifted weights. He thought training was stupid. And, right. But I don't know what was inherent about me. And, I think about this way too often, but, when I was, so like we were beach kids, man, we were like in junior lifeguards and went to the beach and like went surfing. And like, that was what we did in middle school. And I think I've told the story before, but, we were at the lifeguard station and we were actually practicing CPR. It was probably like maybe 10 or 11. And, so they had this bitchin' program in Southern California called Junior Lifeguards, and starts at 10. I think I started when I was 9 because I just lied, or my mom lied for me. But it was basically, they train you to be a lifeguard. You show up, you run, you swim, you paddle, and you basically just train for the entire day like a lifeguard. And then the idea is that you start at 10, and then this is kind of like their mentor program. And then when the kids are 16, 17, 18, they become lifeguards. And so this is like the program, and it's like all over Southern California. They have it up where we lived in the South Bay in Orange County. And it's like to this day, when we were in Orange County, when I lived down there, I would see the kids, they would we always wore blue shorts, Orange County wears red, but the white shirts, and I'd see the kids on their bikes and skateboard, and it was like, man, it like put a smile on my face that kids were still doing junior lifeguards.
Yeah.
So we were at the aid station, or like the lifeguard station, we were practicing CPR, and it was pretty close to where like the Strand was, which is like like strip of concrete that everybody walks on or rides bikes. And I remember like hearing people like making noise and fussing, and we thought like there was like a fight or something, and we just like couldn't figure out what the fuck this like noise, and these people were like kind of running a little bit, almost like Godzilla was coming. And all of a sudden we see this dude walking, and he's wearing like a short pair of gray shorts, He has a tank top that's a string tank top, and the dude's chest was so big that like you could have put a Coke on it. And this dude was just strutting down this fucking deal. And we were like, we just got up and we walked over and started following him. And this dude with huge quads, just fucking yoked. He had a big beard, big gold chain around his neck. And we were like we thought it like was the Incredible Hulk or somebody.
Right.
And he fucking turns around and stomps at us. And we were like this. It was Lyle Alzado.
No way.
Yeah, it was Lyle Alzado.
Oh,
and
that's
his
awesome.
fucking biggest. And he lived in our town. We used to see him driving around in his Rolls Royce convertible, fucking trying to hit kids. He's just a fucking asshole.
Trying to hit kids.
Oh yeah, dude, he totally almost hit me and my brother and my buddies on our bicycles one time. We were like basically like rode our bikes across a crosswalk, and he fucking like almost took us out. And we knew it was him because he had a black Rolls Royce convertible, and it had black wheels. It was all black, and he had a Raiders thing on it. Oh, so douchey for the '80s.
Sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, that sounds amazing now. But seeing him, like I was like I don't know why that, like I want to lift weights. Like that was like the moment in my head when I saw that dude. The fact that like people were running from him, like a Japanese tourist running from Godzilla, as this dude was just strutting, and like I was like, holy shit! Like I didn't even know people could look like that. And I remember thinking,
Isn't it so like it burns that into your mind? Like I remember as a kid, you're watching like I think it was WWE at that time, WWF maybe, I don't remember what, WWF, and I remember Nikita Koloff.
Yeah.
I mean, just super jacked. And I remember like all the popularity, like the Rock and Roll Expresses and all that. I remember my dad like, but look at the traps on Nikita Koloff. That guy actually lifts, and that was like his favorite dude, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, like basically Goldberg is just a 90s version of Nikita Koloff.
Yeah.
But I remember as like a 10-year-old kid, my dad, we watched wrestling, and Nikita Koloff was the guy. And he was showing me pictures of Pizarenko doing pulls, and then telling me Bill Kazmaier stories. And he told me a story about when, I think it was 1980, he was at, I think that was when he was at the Playboy Club in Jersey for World's Strongest Man, when Mike Bridges squatted a grand on the pool deck. And he said he was sitting in this restaurant, and he said all of a sudden he could just hear like spoons and forks just dropping out of people's hands. And he says like a movie, you just hear this, you look up, and he said it was literally people fall like this, and their forks were falling out of their hands as Bill Kazmaier came through the restaurant with the tank top on, 1980. And he's like, we'd never seen a human carry that much mass. And he said it just literally, and you remember, people weren't there for World's Strongest Man. They were like at the Playboy Club, like normal 1970s, 80s dudes and chicks. And he's like, he walked through and he goes, I've never seen it before or since. People literally dropped their forks. They were so just, they were in awe of the human that could look like that. So and I remember hearing that, like, that is awesome.
George was the Thompson powerlifting coach, and Kaz was on their team. So what's interesting is when I saw Kaz at Summer Strong, he had come over, and it was pretty interesting. As I was trying to recount the story, he didn't remember it at all, which is another time. I was like, hey, when I was a little kid, you pulled up in this white Cadillac. He's like, I never had a white Cadillac. I was like, no, you had a blender in the back and food. And he's like, no, I did. I'm like, all right, fuck.
Well, here we go.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, here we go again. So like, that's why if I see people I saw a long time ago in some famous way, I'm like, I'm not going to retell them this story because they think, but he knew George. And he's like, oh yeah, I this, and we were kind of sharing some stories. But I always remember George telling me that Bill Kazmaier was by far the most physically impressive human being to ever walk the earth. He said, and I always remember this, he goes, if you see his hand, he said that from his knuckle went straight down. There was no dip in the wrist. It was literally just like a straight piece. Yeah. And he goes, his joints and like, he goes, his wrists, and he'd always talk about Kaz. He was just, he goes, God put him here to be Kaz, and nobody will ever come before him. He was like, if he lived 1,000 years ago, we'd be talking not about Milo, but about Kaz and Kaz's bowl. And that was, and it was really cool to meet him at Summer Strong. The thing with Kaz, and I think Kaz has played the role of Kaz so long that I wonder how long it takes you to crack through the Kaz into probably just Bill the dude.
It's rare. I've cracked through a time or two, but I agree with you. He's been the Kaz, and I think there's a time too, like personally, I think you get to a time where it's almost impossible because the self talk of who that, whether it's the Kaz or Rudy or any other larger than life, the Breeze, larger than
Yeah.
life feature person is, I think there's a fear in some ways of, do you let that person go and will they ever come back if you do?
Well,
You know,
like Rudy's an interesting one because he's such a, love him to death. I mean, but
oh
just
man.
like such a tortured soul in so many ways. Like I was laughing the fact that they put him on Call of Duty. And so now they have a Call of Duty Rudy character,
I mean, it only makes sense.
which I actually kind of always thought he was in Call of Duty. I didn't know that they like this. I was like, oh, Rudy wasn't the main dude in Call of Duty. But like, I sometimes wonder if you become the purveyor of your own lore, how that becomes kind of an interesting thing. Like, they've heard me say this on the podcast a million times. My dad always said, hey, look out, or what was it? Don't ever get to the point where you're holding your fan club meetings in a phone booth.
Interesting.
Right, which is like, don't be your biggest fan, like and sometimes these guys who are legendary people, who Kaz is a legendary dude. I mean, anybody that's ever watched World's Strongest Man, like watches those like '80s World's Strongest Man, and is like, if you fucking took a time machine and put him here today, he'd still fucking win. Other competitors wouldn't show up.
Yeah, well, they didn't, right? I mean, they made him stop because he was winning too much. I mean,
But he was like
he was
12 years in a row. They were like, nobody can even touch this.
yeah, he's just that guy. I mean, think about Rudy, like, love that dude to death. But, you think about, he didn't even need to be in Call of Duty. They could actually make a video game that is just Rudy's regular life.
Like Super Mario Brothers, like bing, he jumps over a turtle, bing, he eats a mushroom,
Yeah, right.
bing,
Rudy's
he gets gold
fighting
coins.
a giant barrel throwing monkey right now. Yeah, you could have like different boards or different phases of Rudy's life, which would be a wildly interesting like narrative. I mean, it'd probably be impossible to win.
Dude, I we'll take the over under how long it takes. So the nuding up thing is just kind of like that was an NFL thing. Be like, yo, don't nude up around me. Which was like, like you're in your lockers and all of a sudden like you turn around and a dude's fucking ass is in your face. You're like, God, fucking take a step back if I'm sitting here. Don't nude up in front of me. But I wonder how long it'll take Rudy to all of a sudden get into his uniform, which is usually Ranger panties and
Lack of uniform.
yeah, I mean, that's his uniform. Like if I see him with a shirt on, I'm like, what's going on here? You need to get that thing off right now. So Tex, what I need is when Rudy goes Ranger panties, you nude up and you go right with him.
Oh, I like it. Or you're the catalyst of the whole thing. You show up with Ranger panties and then see how long it takes him to respond. I told you the story about when Derek was at the house.
Yeah, when you guys got in the spa and he's like, what? Oh, wait a minute. We're just not wearing these underwear around? Like, I'm surprised he didn't come out in underoos.
Yeah. He went to the bathroom or something. And we're like, yeah, let's jump in the hot tub. I got some silkies, and we put them on. And we're standing in the kitchen getting ready to go in. And he walks out. And he's like, oh, we're doing silkies. And then he like goes. I'm like, well, we're getting in the spa. He goes, okay. Like it was like, no, that was just, he thought we were standing in the kitchen in silkies right there. But I loved the fact that he bought in 100%. And he just was like, if this is what we're doing, I'm in. Like Rudy is just awesome in 100 different ways, but I just loved it. If it's like, hey, Rudy, we're going to climb Everest right now with a donkey tied to our back. He's like, we're doing that. I'm like, yeah, we're doing that. He's like, roger that. And he'll go. And you're like, wow, the guy actually made it.
I still remember seeing the videos of him and Beyond when they were in Iceland and like he was running through those glaciers and like hearing the story. I can't remember the cat who was the Beyond guy, but I can't remember. Yeah. So I remember, was it summer? Like I can't remember where we hung with that dude, but him telling the story.
Winter Strong One, probably.
Was that what it was? And him telling the story of like them on a glacier with Rudy, and they're like, hey, you know what? Like as Rudy just takes off running, and they're like, if that glacier breaks away or there's a hole, we're never going to see him again. And they were like, let's make some great video, and like zero fucking like not an ounce of hesitation in Rudy. Being like, oh, yeah, you might die. Sounds good. I'll see you there. There'll be another adventure on the other side of this thing. And like that, man, I wonder, and I sometimes like wish I was more Forrest Gump and not so reflective and not constantly analyzing everything, to just be like, pin your ears back and fucking go.
It's a skill set. I mean, I wouldn't even say a skill set. Is it a gift? Is it a curse? I don't know. I mean, maybe that's just why they make certain people that way, that to do the things that the rest of us can't,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, dude, think about his talk at Power Athlete Symposium, where he fucking all of a sudden ends up with like David Bowie.
An age daydream, man. I've said,
dude, there's a picture of you and I sitting next to each other with just like, what?
You're so happy.
I like to this day, like, we should link that up in the show notes.
It is available on YouTube.
Oh,
I'll link it
up. That talk, and like nobody knew where he was going, and somehow he wrapped it all up. And Woodsky leans over and he's like, "If there was a spaceship outside, and Rudy, like everybody would go get on with Rudy right now. Like it's like
yeah, because if it turns out, like we've said before, if it turns out that he is in fact an alien or just like a Tyler Durden situation where he doesn't really exist, and
he's just a figment of everybody's imagination, we're all seeing the same person.
Yeah, because we've all decided that this is a person that needs to be in the world, and we've decided collectively as a group that Rudy Reyes is a person. Yeah. It makes probably more sense than him actually existing.
Dude, that day when we picked him up for our podcast, he comes walking out of this dude's house at like 10 in the morning. He's got no shoes on. He's wearing women's jeans, no shirt, and drinking like a huge tall boy. And
Modelo, right?
Yeah, Modelo tall boy. And he gets in the car.
So on brand.
And like gets in the car and we go do the podcast. And like I'm sitting there and people are like, well, how do you know they were women's jeans? I'm like, because they don't make men's jeans in capris with like flowers on them. And like, I mean, they looked good. I don't know who he stole them off them, but I mean, goddamn. And then I asked him, he's like, well, women's clothes just seem to fit better. And I was like, oh, all right. Well, believe me, nobody's going to like rip on you for it. It's like, you're not going out and be like, hey, nice women's jeans, you homo. You know? Like that doesn't exist. I mean,
then he goes Jaguar on you.
Oh yeah, he goes all spider monkey. Next thing you know, you got like 27 punches in the face. But man, like, oh my god, dude, that guy. Like, there's funny things like and that's what I was such a bummer about last year. Because of thanks China, thanks Rona. We have no Summer Strong. Because it's almost like that replugging in, man. You get the chance to like see all your friends and everybody and catch up and just be like, everybody just slips back into the same fucking deal. And you're like, yes, the world has not changed.
Rudy's going to be crazy. John is going to observe. Matt Vincent is going to have strange commentary. And Derek is going to tell you something later that blows your mind about the entire situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And like seeing Gunner and is always good. And it's always cool to see what you guys, I'm so stoked that it's coming back. So
it's going to be fun this year, man. Like, it's 2 days instead of 3. We wanted to make sure that we kind of condensed a little power punch. Sometimes the third day you get some walking wounded by the third day. And so we're trying it out this year a little bit, with the lockdowns, shutdowns, the Rona and all the other nonsense going on, just don't want to, want to give people a chance to travel back home. And so I think it's going to be awesome. We're going to have a little bit more, few less speakers, few more open times, because in a way we feel that's what the world needs now more, just the opportunity to connect and see each other face to face and share those laughs and share those stories and just more of that camaraderie versus sit in a chair and hear an amazing presentation, but at some point, like the real gold of it is getting to talk behind the scenes, and so that's what we're looking at more this year.
Do you have a list of the speakers? I know it's on the website, but
so I'm looking back at my thing. We got Kyle Carpenter. I believe Kyle, Medal of Honor recipient. He was at Winter Strong.
Oh yeah.
If you ever have anyone's like, I jump on a grenade for that guy. Well, that guy did.
His story is like when I saw his name pop up, I was like, oh man, this is a great dude to have. I mean, dude, fucking balls the size of a fucking brass balls you bring in a dump truck.
In a dump truck. And exactly. He's one of those people that still just, it freaks me out being around him, not because of his celebrity status, but just, if you and I were hanging out and I had to decide in the next half a second I was going to die for you, I may give me a second to work the math out. But when you have 0 seconds and that's the decision you make, that to me blows my mind out. And I look at someone like that and I go, I'm not the man you are. I'm just not. And which is nothing against another. It's just like this utmost respect. You're going, gosh, you did something that I don't believe I could do. or I don't know. And hopefully I won't have to figure that out. But he's just a whole different animal. We have Stephanie Mock, who's a great strength coach and friend of ours. We have Coach Luke Day, who's a strength coach at South Carolina, who's changing the game in many ways of how he's coaching. I really love that. You have Virginia High Performance, so Alex Oliver and Danny are coming back and going to do some different presenting on how they're working that system. Old Tony Blower. I know you know Tony.
Oh yeah, real well. Yeah, he's been an alum of Power Athlete Radio. Always like, I mean, nobody knows more about fear than that dude.
Yeah, exactly. So that was going to go with the no fear, and I think it has some, as you well know, some amazing implications into the sporting world as well as the tactical population and just regular world. We have Mike Schrock, who's going to be doing, he's retiring this year. I think he's been a strength coach in close to 50 years. Wow. And he's retiring. And what I ask of him is, give us the cliff notes, the do's, the maybe do's, and the never do's that you learned in 50 years of doing this. And so I'm really interested in seeing that. We got Ben and Owen Franks, who were all-stars that played for the All Blacks.
Also Power Athlete alum.
There you go. So, yeah, I mean, we attract good people. Derek Woodsky, who you can't go wrong with, who is one of the another Power Athlete alum, who's probably that 3 hour you guys did was last summer was one of my favorite podcasts y'all ever done. Yeah,
no, it was excellent. I always enjoy talking to Derek. He's got an interesting commentary, and his point of view is always just really, really like thought provoking, you know?
Yes. Yeah. I've said it before. Talking to Derek's like taking medicine that tastes like candy. You know?
I like it.
And you got Bill Gillespie with Jesse Ackerman. So two awesome strength coaches, two different backgrounds, and they're going to kind of compare, contrast their thoughts on strength culture and how to achieve it in different methods, which I'm interested in. And last, we have Coach Tommy Moffitt from LSU and multiple other places, and Coach Aaron Osmus. And that's an interesting one because Aaron, many people know obviously who he is, but he was Tommy Moffitt's protege when Aaron was a shot putter at Tennessee, and Moffitt was one of the strength coaches. So the stuff that Moffitt was doing with the Tennessee football team and that later built his system out more so, he was trying out on Aaron Osmus back when he was in college. And so part of this is going to be what I learned from Aaron Osmus and what I learned from Tommy Moffitt, because in talking to Tommy one day, he told me, he said, well, Aaron might say he learned a lot of stuff from me, but I learned a lot of stuff from Aaron through this, and this. So kind of a tying together the strength roots of those two trees and realizing that they learned from both from each other. And even Moffitt told me, he goes, heck, I still call Aaron often, monthly, and I'm learning from him now, where is he used to be my pupil. So there's those are the 10 sections that we're doing. We got some more free sections and some things like that, but we kind of have a little bit more of a strength coaching base to it this year. Just kind of get back to some of the basics and give people a chance to connect.
Nice. Excellent. No, dude, we're super stoked. We're coming in force. So yeah, we're definitely,
we need to get you back on, we need to get you back on the rotation here. And then also I want to do a podcast with you. You're on my list of people that I want to bring on the Sorin podcast.
Sweet. Do you want to do it when I'm in town? I'd love to do it in person.
If we have time. I know that
you're always so busy, dude. Yeah,
that one might be a maybe. We are bringing. We got some like old vintage Airstream trailers.
Nice.
That Zach was selling, so I bought them off of him, and so we're going to set them up as our swanky podcast studios in the parking lot.
Oh, badass! No, side note, I love Airstreams. I've always loved them. I remember as a kid seeing people like dragging them behind, they're super neat, like the architecture. I went and looked at a few of them. I mean, they're pretty neat, man.
Well, you had a wild idea to turn our
I was basically gonna I was gonna buy one and actually move the office when we were talking about doing an education pod here. We were gonna do it in Power Athlete, so all of our friends in the neighborhood, when they closed the schools, wanted to do an education pod. So I was like, hey, we'll give them the office. We'll just get an Airstream and hang outside, and then and then that fell apart pretty quick, which was good because. It was about a few days of trying to figure it out and then realizing that trying to find the teachers was like, and that's when we ended up sending our kids to just a private school that was really good. Just because the public schools were shut down, and then they didn't go back full time until January. And our daughters go to a small private school, and they've been in school the full time, which is good. But no, I definitely
same with ours. Yeah,
I definitely love Airstreams. I think they're so cool. Every time I see them, they just look like traveling Coors Light cans. Like I'm just like, man, they're so bitching.
Yeah, I got a 1976 a 31-foot land yacht. So
dude, those are bad.
Yeah, it's the same. It's as old as I am. And then we got a 1975 Argosy. And so they're made by Airstream. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah,
but
they're more square ones.
Well, they're still the circular looking ones, but they're colored. So it's like a teal and a white. So
what's that called? An Odyssey?
An Argosy, Argosy, Argosy. I'll send you pictures of it. But so what they did, they said in the 70s, Airstream was trying to kind of like reinvent themselves a little bit, and because they wanted kind of a swanky, disco-y kind of different thing with colors. But they also said they were too expensive to make the big rounded parts because they're like hand done.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did, they were able to stamp them, but they didn't have the same finish for the rounded part. So they figured out if they painted them, they could cover over. They basically could use like the seconds that they would do the normal Airstreams, and they turned them into these things called Argosies, but they painted them. And so it was kind of like it was like new Coke, right?
Mm-hmm.
They came out like, here's the new Airstream called the Argosy. But they were a little bit less expensive because they wanted to keep the Airstream as their like top premier model. Sure. So they were like a little bit more basic. They were colored, and probably for the wives that like didn't want the Airstream, but kind of deal. But from what I understand is they become like wildly collectible because they were kind of this thing just for a while. So we got a 75 Argosy and a 76 Airstream.
Oh, badass.
And
the old ones are pretty cool. Like I looked at like a 2005. I've looked at a bunch of different ones. And the older ones, when people get the old ones because the quality was so good, and they redo the subfloors and they redo them, I've looked at some pretty cool ones. I want to say, is it the Airstream International is like the top? I remember looking at like a 2018 31-foot International, man, and I was like $127,000. I'm like, that seems like a good investment.
That's a good investment.
Oh man, like I mean, at the end of the day, you just got to be like, hey, I'm hooking the truck up. Get in, kids. Don't worry about it. We'll stop when we hit fucking Yellowstone.
Yeah, in Yuma. Yeah, that was kind of the idea. So it's a 31-foot. I think it's an international. They call it the land yacht. It's a sovereign land yacht, and I mean, I got it considerably less cost, but everything's original in it. Refrigerator still works.
I love
Stove
that.
still works. I mean, it literally looks like you walked into this in 1976.
So it's going to be like walking back into the home we grew up in as kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That was the coolest part because you walk in and you're like, holy crap, I
remember shag carpet.
Yeah, and it smells like this. Because remember when we were at the Black Rifle Ranch, like, did you walk in that place?
Yeah. No,
dude. Super cool. It's a time capsule.
Yeah. Cool. So years ago, one off season I went to Graceland, and
nice.
Like when you walk into Elvis's house, he has this jungle room, and he had this, like, it was a redwood table. Their coffee table was like a sliced redwood that had been varnished, and it had these wrought iron legs that were kind of curly, and that was our coffee table growing up. And I know this because like I split my forehead on it, and I like freaked out, took a picture, and I hit my mom up. I'm like, dude, that was our coffee table. She's like, well, yeah, why do you think we had it? Everybody had that coffee table because Elvis had it.
Oh no.
And I was like, I'm like, the fact that like people would decorate their homes based off of what Elvis had, and I was like, holy shit, we're pretty far away. But like shag carpet, and like I'll look at these pictures from our old house, and I'll be like, oh my God, paneling on the wall. My mom's like, that shit was cool back then. Like, it's awful today, and you guys are laughing, but that's how people rolled.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, because remember that house had all that wood paneling everywhere. It had a freaking leopard skin or like a faux leopard, weird circular sectional couch. It's like, this place is gnarly. And you saw like all the astronauts are hanging out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you're 1966 astronauts. Those cats were doing that before the moon landing.
Yeah.
They were partying their ass off of that ranch.
Well, good thing there was no social media to fucking out these guys. I always think, man,
exactly.
Like social media has like, there was probably so much if you read the book on Kennedy, so Kennedy hired basically prostitutes as his press agents, and then they would get like intern girls that they would basically just go in there and court as like, you know, for whatever, and then they would go to the pool every day at 2:00, and it was like Kennedy and like these hookers and all, you know, basically the free for all. And so much so that Jackie O actually, when he was gone on a trip, had it demoed and turned into the Rose Garden. So if you go to the White House, and I had a couple years ago, Dave Spanton, when we were in D.C. for a meeting with fucking the military thing on that deal we did, we had got an opportunity to do a West Wing tour. So we got to go in and see the White House and like the Oval Office and do that, which was bitching. But we got to walk out to and I had read all this history on like JFK and the White House and all that. So it was super cool to go back and see some of some of the paintings and some of the things that are not, you can't take pictures and, just some pretty amazing art in there. But as I walked out to the Rose Garden, I was like, oh, now I get it. And so, yeah, he would have his orgies and was, having these free-for-alls with all these hookers and everything. And they didn't write that book until years later. Today, shit, that would
later that day.
Yeah, 6 minutes later, there's somebody posting a selfie, and next thing it's
the president's getting in trouble for golfing.
and Kennedy's back there having hooker orgies with 6 martini lunches. It just. Dude, like such a different time, such a different.
Did you see that? There's a picture in there of Jackie O. It's in one of those hallways in the White House. I took a picture. We were there for a Christmas party this past year, and it was just this wild. It was just super how to put it. It was just had a lot of depth to the picture but Jackie O was in there, and it was. So Leslie and I got invited this year to the White House Christmas party, which is super cool. I've never been there.
Yeah,
and but yeah, just an interesting place, and and by today's standards, I mean, it sounds very strange even saying, like, the White House isn't like super obviously like posh, right? I mean, it's a big house, and it's of course very nice, and it's nicer than anything I live in, of course. But you see these mansions, these baller ass mansions these days, you're like, White House looks like it was made in the 50s.
What you guys were in the West
1850s.
Wing? In the West Wing, I always wonder what the private the private wing where the family lives. Like I know
we were by the library and all this. I took a couple pictures. I'll send you from the library. It was kind of interesting. A couple of the books I saw.
Yeah, as you're walking down that hallway to the Oval Office, there's all those. God, I can't remember the name of the artist, but he's the guy that. But there's
Remington?
There are Remingtons in there, which is pretty cool with
Right.
that eagle. But it's like somebody was the cartoon sketcher. He's Time Magazine, super famous. I'm totally blanking on his name.
Sure.
But it's basically all these people waiting in line to see the president, and it's a series of 4 paintings. I wanted to snap a picture, and they even said beforehand, like, don't snap a picture. But there's some just really, it was.
It's surreal.
Well, it was super cool when we got to walk in the Oval Office, because the first thing you do is you start looking and being like, well, there's no corners in here. So where in the world did Bill Clinton get a BJ? Because in that thing, he made it like they couldn't like it's like you're looking and you're like, he must have got this at the desk, because like there's no corners in here. There's nowhere to hide. Like there's a flag. There's nothing on the walls. Like there's no furniture.
I'm sure whatever he said, it happened just like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, dude. So years ago, when I was at the Eagles, we had this sports psychologist, Kevin Elko. Real famous guy. If you guys look him up, I think it's kevinelko.com. So Elko would come in and he would just kind of talk to us a little bit. And I remember sitting down with him, and we were talking about like the idea of like, relaxing and just being like focused and whatever. And he made a good point. He's like, when you're in a stressful situation, I just want you to think presidential. And I was like, okay, why presidential? He goes, well, think about this. Bill Clinton is being impeached. He's on trial. And they ask him if he got a BJ in the White House. And he goes, no. All of a sudden, Monica Lewinsky shows up with his dress as proof and whatever. His fucking heart rate and his demeanor absolutely never changed. And like all of a sudden he got outed. And he's like, Bill Clinton, he's like, just think about that pressure, like that level of presidential. And, and he even said, he goes, Clinton, absolute sociopath. He goes, sociopathic, the ability to be able to lie and like, and he goes, it's really the mark of a great politician. He goes, honest people and people that, wear their heart on the sleeve, don't do great as politicians. Bill Clinton, complete sociopath. And he's like, so when you go out there, think about being presidential. And I always to this day, I still laugh about presidential and Kevin Elko. But yeah, just it was so cool to go there and like see the history and like the Resolute desk and all, like, you know, I'm like, oh, you know, I saw it. It just, you know, and then like there's I was always a Ronald Reagan fan. Like to this day, some of Reagan's quotes, like I used it the other day on the podcast. The scariest words you'll ever hear is "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Here to help you.
And so like Reagan, like it just, the thing I appreciate about Reagan is obviously he was an actor. But he could go on Johnny Carson and he was charismatic and talk and this, and, you know, all of his speeches. And my dad, he was involved in, you know, the Republican Party in California. He knew Reagan, and always said, he goes, you know, Reagan was so charismatic. He goes, I don't know if he was nearly as smart as Richard Nixon, because to this day, my dad said probably the smartest person he'd ever met in his life was Richard Nixon. He's like,
really?
Yeah, he's like, Nixon was an absolute fucking genius. But he said Reagan was good looking. He was an actor. He had money. He was charismatic, could deliver. If somebody could write the words, he could deliver them like his own. And he goes, and he goes, at the end of the day, that's what makes a great politician, not necessarily the policy, even though he surrounded himself with really sharp people, but he's like the ability to be able to deliver it in such a way that people think it's your words.
Wow. I was at a, Distage thing a few years ago, and they had one of the guys that I can't remember his exact context, but he worked for Reagan during those years. I believe he was at the CIA, but he was telling us kind of some of the secrets behind the Reagan deal. And he said one of his strengths was that he never hired people that were like him. And he always hired people that would disagree with him because he wanted the best people around him. And he wanted people that weren't just mouthpieces for him, and which I thought was always very interesting from a leadership standpoint, because a lot of times, you know, pride or fear or whatever it may be is like, let me get a lot of people that are like-minded, and that's a good thing for building a culture in some ways, but for making big decisions, you want the opposing views.
Well, you never want to be like Blazing Saddles, you know, when he's like sitting around and he's like, I didn't get a harumph out of that guy, you know, harumph. Like,
it's right, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, and I've you know, my COO, I call him my no guy. Like, I ask him, you know, I want his first answer to be no when we talk about things. And then, because it always causes me to like have to back up my theories and stuff like that. Then we having good conversations. You know, the hard part probably, is you've experienced as well, as being like the top guy, is most people say yes to you because you signed their paycheck.
Sure.
So it's good to have someone that pushes back. Text.
Like I was thinking, like I had this conversation yesterday. You know, like I think, you know, you got to have people around you who are honest and like, hey, like, yes. I think that sucks, or you know, like prove it. And I think just people sitting around being like, oh, harumph, like that's where you get into problems, and
you get over your skis, and then you end up doing the whole you know, phone book or phone booth. You know,
having your fan club meetings in a phone booth.
Yeah, that's a bad deal.
In college, I took a class by a guy named Ken Jowett, and he was Reagan's advisor to Russia during his presidency. Wow. And then when he left there, he came in. He was a political science teacher at Berkeley and a professor and a Wrights, and he would teach one under division, like you know, lower division class, and everybody took it because this dude would just get up and like tell stories that were like from the Oval Office, like telling the story the night that they came up with basically creating this whole facade of Star Wars, which was the idea that we were going to put satellites.
That might have been the dude that came to my thing. Like we heard about all the thermite, the whole thing with Star Wars and everything. Yeah, because he talked about the Berkeley is shooting a bullet out of the air.
Yeah. So this guy was a professor. I don't know if he's a CIA guy. Could be. Who knows? But so they had this idea based off of the movie that they were going to leak to the Russians that we had put satellites up in space that had lasers that could shoot down their missiles. Yes. And so we started, and the idea was that we're going to start this arms race to bankrupt, and we're not going to fight the Cold War. We're going to effectively bankrupt them. And then the straw that's going to break their back is when we allow the secrets to be stolen by these, you know, infiltrators and these Nazis. And if you've seen Falcon and the Snowman and all this shit, we're going to allow this information to like be leaked at the highest source, that we have lasers that will destroy it all, which will effectively just fucking destroy everything. And so the night that they, you know, hatched this whole plan, and they've been coming up with it never. And so he's telling us these stories. It was pretty amazing. Like,
and what was his last name? Is Jowett, right?
Yeah, Ken Jowett.
I got to look back through my emails. That might have been him. It was super cool. He said there was like an A team and a B team that they were doing, and he was on the B team of that. And nothing like good or bad, but he was like, talk about the political strategy and how I guess he had said that Reagan had been walking in the late 70s, early 70s, walking through a division at Berkeley, and they had a kid who was telling them how they were learning how to shoot bullets out of the air with other bullets. And he went back to, he remembered that, and that was a part of the whole thing about Star Wars was like, give us enough information. He remembered like 8-10 years later, like, give us that information to how that sounds so we can start using this technology or an idea to basically make the Russians think that we have this ability. And Ollie, I believe, was telling me also about thermite, that I believe the Russians had a thermite, which I guess is this incendiary, ridiculous incendiary. And he's like, yeah,
well, that's what they blow up pigs with here in Texas. That's
right.
Thermite. Or
yeah,
that's
he said that we didn't have it, but we basically leaked that as well. Like, we could shoot your crap out of the sky, and we have this thermite. And the Russians like, all right, good game, boys. Like, we're done. And they're like, it was a total poker game.
Yeah, so that whole thing was what like, you remember Gorbachev and Reagan and the big book and all that, and the coming down to the wall. All that was because they were like, fuck, like, we just bankrupted our country trying to chase this like arms race.
Interesting note, gentlemen. The Falcon and the Snowman. That's a 1985 movie.
Yeah. Do you also know the significance of the Falcon and the Snowman?
No, I've never even heard of this until you just named it.
The Falcon and the Snowman was about there was a rich kid, and then this other kid went down, and he was, I think, working at the McDonnell Douglas or somewhere down. I forgot the plant, but it happened in the South Bay, and those guys went to my high school. So when the movie, after that whole thing went down, my dad, who was mayor of our town, told me that like all these like strange individuals moved to our town that like were like, from Langley, Virginia and all this. And like, he was like, man, like they realized that this was a hotbed. And then all of a sudden these people started moving in. And my dad always claimed that one of our neighbors who moved in shortly after that whole thing dropped was they were CIA operatives. My dad's like, those people are fucking CIA. They moved from Langley, Virginia, and they're here. Like, why the fuck did they move here?
They're like a freaking vacuum salesman all of a sudden.
No, the guy was like, I say the wife was like a psychologist, and the guy like made like dental equipment, like these weird, like weird. Yeah, my dad was always like, they're full of shit.
Yeah, and then the Klopex were beside them.
Yeah, it was a weird deal, but yeah. So that whole Falcon and the Snowman thing, I remember seeing that movie. We went with my parents, but like, yeah, the guy was like a cocaine dealer, and I was like, oh Jesus, it's the first time I knew about any of that stuff. But yeah, that Falcon and the Snowman is pretty cool.
We got another movie recommendation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't go wrong with Red Dawn and fucking Falcon and the Snowman.
Jeez.
What year was Red Dawn? Was that 87?
No, it was 84.
It was 84. Okay.
Yeah. I checked that as well. I didn't want to support either of your arguments for the 1985.
Dude, we have a pretty epic podcast arguing. What was it, 85 versus 94?
1994, yeah. Dumb and Dumber, Forrest Gump, which, Bert, you've just dropped 15 times this podcast, just saying.
I think I went with 85.
Oh, yeah. Y'all two were Team 85.
And then we did Team 85 to beat up on your 94. I think
we all know who won.
I think we curb stomped it.
Yeah, I think, okay, so here's the thing, John. Were you and I talking about this before? So you probably know him because you know everyone that lives in California.
Oh, yeah.
John Milius.
No, I don't know that name.
Okay, so check this out before we go down the movie rabbit hole. So I was, of course, some nights you look at your phone before you go to bed to give you something to do. I kind of usually clear my brain of like stuff that matters. So, of course, I was looking up Red Dawn. Yeah. And so it turns out that Milius, I guess, wrote and directed Red Dawn, John Milius. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. Let me know a little bit more about this guy. I look him up, and I see his other movies. Are you looking at this at the moment?
I'm trying to play catch up, but keep
going. Let me just give you a little heads up. So what I realize is this guy was probably the most influential person in my life, unknowingly.
Oh.
So his movies that he was included in either wrote dialogue for Conan the Barbarian, Red Dawn, Big Wednesday, Apocalypse Now, Clint Eastwood, Magnum Force, Hearts of Darkness. Hold on, we keep going. It gets better. Jeremiah Johnson, Dirty Harry, Geronimo, Extreme Prejudice, Uncommon Valor,
Oh God, one of my favorites.
1941, Clear and Present Danger,
Wow.
Frazetta. And he wrote the monologue of the USS Indianapolis in Jaws.
Wow. Dude,
I was
just the
like-
fact that Uncommon Valor, I mean,
Uncommon Valor was amazing.
dude, funny story. I'm in a bar in Philadelphia. It was called the Irish, the Irish Pub.
Yeah.
It was right on 2nd Street, right off of Front. And as I'm sitting
Did
at the
Randall
bar,
Tex Cobb come in?
it's exactly who sat down next to me. And so I'm sitting down at the bar.
Freaking sailor.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So they bring my food, and I look over, and I'm like, holy fuck, that's Sailor. And so I asked the bartender, I was like, can I buy him dinner or food or whatever? And he came over, and I was like, I'm not kidding you. My brothers and I lived and died by that movie.
Oh, I had a fake grenade, or a real one, but a drilled out one. I had when I would go play Army outside. I got at the Army Navy store.
Dude.
Like Sailor.
That whole thing where he's like, why they call him Quailer or Sailor? Because you get a bunch of red wine, drink a bunch of Quaaludes, and just sail away. And at the time, we didn't know what Quaaludes were. It wasn't until years later we figured that out. But like that whole thing, he's like, why does he have a hand grenade? This fucking shit gets too heavy. He's going to pull the pin and see what happens next. Like there was like, remember Blaster? It was Sailor, Wilkes.
Oh yeah, they did the great training montage. It was great.
Yeah, they're running with
so I was like, okay, so you've done basically Conan the Barbarian, Jaws, Uncommon Valor, and Red Dawn. You're the most influential person in my life. And
if I ask you the riddle of steel, I mean, it's like, how do you not know this?
How do you not know that? Here's the thing with the crazy.
I got one fun fact for you, Bert.
I was about to tell you. I bet this is it.
Oh, well, John Milius, the character Walter from Big Lebowski, based on him.
Exactly. You see the picture of him? He was the same guy. And they said he would literally walk around the set with a 45 cocked and locked and put it on the table when he'd have business meetings with people. They said he was legitimately Walter. That's who that character is after.
That is, Walter is one of my favorite characters in cinema history. He's like, it's a show dog, dude. It's got papers.
So my goal now is the only person I ever want to have on the podcast is John Milius. Because I want to be able to tell because he's like in his 70s. I'm be like, listen, sorry, man, I'm just a kid from South Carolina, and like your crazy ass basically formed my entire mind as a only child in the 80s.
So we had a similar moment. We had a guy on from the Charlie Foundation who was
Abrams.
Jim Abrams. So the Charlie Foundation is a deal where they use ketogenic diets for a child's epilepsy. So his son was epileptic. They were going to do a lobotomy. He figured out that ketogenic diets fix this, and it kind of tied in with Ken Ford. So he started this thing called the Charlie Foundation. And so we're having him on, and we're going through this whole thing. And I'm sitting there like text, because at the time we weren't on video. So we're like, talking, doing the podcast. And so I'm on my computer. And he's like talking about this. And so I put his name in with the Charlie Foundation, and all of a sudden his IMDb pops up. He was the writer for all of Airplanes, The Naked Guns, Blazing Saddles. He like went through this whole list of things. And like all of a sudden as I'm reading this, I like stopped him. And I'm like, I'm telling you, you've done amazing work here, but you were responsible for much of my childhood and the movies we watched. And then he started laughing, and we talked about Airplane and Leslie Nielsen and like The Naked Gun and all these movies that he had done. And like, we had a great podcast, but I was like you wrote like the soundtrack, like the movie, like we watched these movies till we couldn't watch them anymore on video.
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing to have him on. Well, it'd be like you have John Milius on for like a different reason, and then you're like, Google his name, and you're like, oh my God, you wrote Red Dawn?
You just see me pass out.
He also was a founding member of the UFC.
Who, John Milius?
Yeah, Ultimate Fighting Championships.
Dude.
That guy. All right, so if anyone's listening out there could get me in touch with John Milius, I think that, I mean, how fun it would be to do a dual podcast with John Milius.
Dude, it'd be great.
Well,
we can make it happen. I'm sure you know what I found? If we put things out in the universe, good things happen.
Case in point, we had Mr. Matthew Modine on to talk about Vision Quest High
It
School
was a
Wrestling.
fantastic podcast. I enjoyed the heck out of that.
Well,
Y'all did a
the
great
best
job.
part is his like PR people, whatever, were like, all you get is 30 minutes. And we get him on there, and the podcast was like
Challenge accepted.
like an hour plus, and to the point where he's like, I got to go to this thing, but I'm pretty bummed. Like, we should do this again. And we're like, yes, we converted Matthew Modine. I mean, Vision Quest, dude. I mean, Vision Quest stacks up in our movies, and Full Metal Jacket. Like, holy shit, amazing.
Yeah. I didn't realize you were an Uncommon Valor guy too. I mean, I guess it makes total sense.
Dude,
but that kind of goes right with the Red Dawn and the brother at the end. I'm like, all right, if I got to dive off of a guard tower with 2 grenades sometime,
I can't think of a better way to go. Like I was, we talked on the podcast, I think it was yesterday or a couple days ago, but I don't know if this happens to you. It might not, but like, do you ever have like the 3 a.m. existential moment where you like wake up and you're sitting there staring and you're like, why are we here?
Yeah, not as much as 3 a.m., but yeah, I certainly get that.
Yeah, so I get this like 3 a.m. like, why are we here? Like, what's the purpose of this whole thing? Like, what's the goal? Like, who am I? And you just kind of go through all this play in your mind. And like, as I was kind of thinking, like, you brought up Uncommon Valor, like the simplicity of that. These guys are like, go to Vietnam, they get into this thing, and then they kind of, they come back and they go their separate ways. And, Wilkesie's welding, and, Blaster's over there teaching kids how to ride dirt bikes, and Sailor's fucking in the drunk tank. And then here's this guy that like, goes back and is like, your lieutenant was my son, and he's still a POW. And these guys being like, we have to go back and get these guys. Like that sense of like, we have unfinished business. And then those guys go back and they're able to, go back and save some people. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, like Service and, Tate Fletcher, we just had Tate on the podcast, which was great because, Tate was in a real dark place. And I don't know if you remember it at his Sornex talk. Remember when he got up there and he was trying to like kind of fumble a little bit and he was trying to find his words, and then we all started cheering for him and he fucking caught his moment. He was in the throes of having a bunch of like brain issues and was going through this kind of dark depression. And like I always think about his talk of like, what do I want to do? Like serve, like I want to be of service, I want to like help people and this, and like like what's the mark of this? How do you know? Is it just about like, oh, I do this thing and help? Like, are we helping people? Are we making a difference? Are we, like what am I providing?
Right.
Am I going to be remembered 100 years from now? And it's like, all those things are going through your mind, and then you realize like, hey man, I got an amazing wife, I got great kids, we have a great community of people, of like-minded individuals, and at the end of the day, like if those people can stand you and are happy to see you when you walk in with a smile on your face, like what more could you ask for? Or like in Uncommon Valor, that those dudes go in there fucking hot and basically blow shit up and get their friends out, and they're flying back, and those dudes are like, you can see them super skinny, like crying and being like, thank you for coming and saving us, you didn't forget us. So
that's it, man. That's where you come to the realization of like, we could all chase our own stuff, and we've chased weights, we've chased distances or money and all the other stuff. You're just like, from a relevancy standpoint, like it only works, like true value is only if you're doing it for other people and creating a better situation for them. Right. I mean, that's the harsh or not harsh reality of it. And I think that's why, like, some of those, I hate to make it a movie thing, but that's why maybe some of those movies just hit me so hard early, because they put something in there into the fabric of my formative years that I didn't fully understand until later. And then as you grow up, you kind of go, oh, like it wasn't about how far I did this or that or whatever, but, checking in on, a Rudy Reyes or a Brandon Lilly when he was having trouble, or
man, how far has he come?
Oh my gosh, that
Dude,
guy is the success story of the decade.
No, we've been, we need to get him on. Like we've never had him on Power Athlete Radio, which we realized, and we're like, oh fuck, we got to get him on. But it's amazing to see how far he's come. And like I always said, man, it's hard for Leopard to change his spots, man. And I think that dude, might have changed his spots to stripes. But yeah, he's
one of the most impressive people I've ever been around, and it's in the fruit, right? Like I've had no less than easily 100. I'll just say 100 100 people have at least DM'd me or texted me like, hey, Brandon speaks very highly of you, but Brandon's helped me so much in X, Y, Z. These are people I don't even know.
Well, and
And
I'm
I'm
sure you've
thinking,
had people
like,
DM you be like, that guy's a bad guy. Stay away from that guy.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
don't
And
think I
you're
ever
like,
got that.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah. But you look and you're like, wow, if he's behind the scenes, like helping all these people and not like flexing about it. And these people are always just coming at me going, seriously, man, hey, like, thanks. You know, I'm like, what do you mean? And like, Brandon's just doing his stuff in the background. I don't know if he's trying to make up, and he's told me he's kind of like trying to make up for stuff that he had done before, but you're
yeah,
like,
he
I
told me
think
that.
he's so far in the black at this point. Um, and it's awesome that, and he and I, get off when we talk to each other, like just, trying to chase down that, like, how do we provide more value to the people we love? Because that's what actually matters. Right. And, it's like, I look at Tate, and Tate's just a beautiful human being. I wrote down what he said. He said, I'm trying to, when in the presentation at Summer Strong, he said, I'm trying to be a human. Oh, what did he say? I'm trying to be a human, a person of the world in good standing. And you're just like, that's a really interesting way to put it. Is after all the bullshit said and done, and you cash out, like, was the world a better place because of your existence here?
Well,
And if so, like, if that's what you could drive towards, then
well, I
you
mean,
let you left the balance sheet better.
well, that, and it was something I talked to Tate. It was funny. He called me and left a message, and I could hear the clarity in his voice, and I called him back, and we started rapping, and like within like 10 minutes, I was like, yo, man, just save it. Like, let's do a podcast tomorrow. And so
Yeah,
we got him on because it was the first time I'd heard that clarity in his voice. But
that's great.
something that resonates with me, and I think about this as well. When my dad was sick, he was, basically in his last part of this fight. And I asked him, like, hey, Dad, is there anything else on the bucket list? Like, trying to give him, like, hey, we still got shit to do. And everything in his bucket list was redoing the things that he'd always done, but with us. He was like, I got a chance to go to the Galapagos and go scuba diving, but you guys weren't there. I want to go back and go, this. Wow. And like, he went through all these things. And I was like, man, it blew me away that his bucket list was just redoing all these things that he had gotten to do, but with us. And I still want to go to Mammoth one more time and ski with you guys. And like, that was super impactful because it wasn't like, oh, I drove badass Porsches and I had a Rolex and I got to, was a practicing trial attorney for 52 years and I did this. I mean, none of that. It was, I want to go back and make the memories for like, and have that. And so I sometimes think that there's like this interesting idea of like accumulation and like, like, oh, I have to do this or, this is the person, here. And like, at the end of the day, like, you're in your final leg and, the ancient Egyptians couldn't fucking take it with them, even though they tried. And as you're laying there, breathing in your final breath, the memories and the things that make whether or not you were a good person and you were of service and you did all these things. And this is what Tate and I talked about. Who's surrounding you, who's like, you did a great job. We'll carry your name on. Were you the type of person that, shit, if so-and-so passed away, would I fly halfway across the earth and fucking ride a donkey for 2 weeks to get there, to be there and to get up and say a few words? And I think like that's really the only mark you have. Like, that, and we talked about it earlier in this podcast with like that idea of physical culture. Like, are you contributing to that physical culture? Are you a piece? Like, is there going to be, because one day we'll all be old and gone, but like when somebody goes and builds a Hall of Fame for strength, how does that fit in? How do we fit into this? Are we part of that conversation? And, and that's something I think a ton about, especially, having kids, like what memories do they have? Like, and you, dude, you're every time I'm around your family, like, and what I get to see off of social, man, you're a great father. And like those kids will forever be raised around this and like tell stories about the dad and his crazy friends and this, and like people would show up and this, like, I fucking love that because like, those stories, like your son will be 18, 20 years old and he's like, dude, you want to hear how crazy my dad was? My dad and all his big fucking buddies would show up and we'd go to this huge party and people would fucking lift weights. And there was this dude in Silkies, I don't know his name, but he's on Call of Duty. And like, there'll just be these endless stories because like, that's the way, like that's, and your sons will see what you did with your father and this, and like carry that on. And dude, and that's pretty epic, man. It's cool to be a part of.
Well, thanks, man. I feel the same way. I mean, we've had our time, we've chased our dreams, And of course we're still doing it, but I agree 100%. I had a long conversation with my dad yesterday, and we don't get to go on as many long trips. We went down to University of Georgia. We were installing the football weight room down there. And so, it's fun when I get to take Pops to the new installs, because it's been a while since he's gotten on the road, and there's a pride to get to say, okay, Pops, you saw this as something, a way to change the strength world and to build a relevancy within the strength world by building this brand that was never intended to be a brand or a company. And look where it's grown. Like, look what, we weren't even here for the first 3 days of the install, and we showed up, and look what our guys have done, because you taught me and I taught them and they taught each other, and it's gone down the line. So your relevancy is in these 30 something racks, and like all this coolness and these super high technological things are going on. It's like, I told him, I said, my gift to you is for me to push as hard as I possibly can, so you get to enjoy this while you're still here, and to get to see the fruits grow into something and enjoy these fruits, and realize that I'm going to attempt to give my kids the same opportunities and challenges that you gave me. So one day, when I'm a tick on their timeline, that I still have some relevancy and some value to what I was able to give them, and so it was cool. It was literally yesterday, it was a cool experience for me as a son to be able to go, are you proud? This is what I tried. This is what I promised you I would try to do. And I think I've done it. I'm trying to do it for our family name and for what you started. And if you'd like me to alter it, let's talk about it. But what I promised you 10 years ago I was going to do, I think I've done. Yep. And so we had a cool moment yesterday. It was awesome.
No, it's cool, man. And, it's something where, like my dad came and visited, and he was gone roughly 28 days later. Or, wow. It was like super quick. And like, you hope you say all those things, but that's cool as shit, man. That, I always enjoy seeing your dad. Like I said, I enjoy shaking his hand and, and then seeing him kind of, I know he doesn't remember who half these fucking people are, and they come over to him. He's like, I'm gonna go hang in my office. But no, man, it's cool, and I'm super stoked that Summer Strong's coming back around, and we look forward to being there. So, man,
I can't wait to see you guys, and you guys are bringing the big hammer wacky.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw it on the trailer, strap it in, and bring it, and I think it'd be a good place for it. So
I want to include that in the potentially in the combine this year.
Okay, let's do it.
So we got a couple things in mind, but you were definitely a top of conversation, and we're super pumped that it's coming. And the biggest thing that you guys are bringing is y'all. I mean, that's the key, right? It's the family reunion, and I think we thrive off each other's energy and just mutual respect for one another, but also the iron game. And proud to call you a brother, man.
I hope we get to do this when we're old, man.
That's the goal.
Yeah. It's like, I always think, I'm like, it'd be like, we're 65, got to go see, old man Sorin, like roll out there. And at that point, it'll probably have fucking the town of Sorinex that you guys just up and buy. And next thing you know, we'll just have a town.
Oh yeah. And my kids will see the old man Wellborn, and your kids will be coming over. Like that's another goal. Is like, I want within the next few years for you to bring your Airstream that you're going to get and haul the kids.
Oh, I talk to my wife about it all the time. I'm like, and she's like, if it just shows up, I won't care.
Hey, you're cleared hot.
Yeah, no, I'm totally cleared hot on that. So awesome, dude. Well, thank you so much for being an alum and an illustrious guest on Power Athlete Radio. It's always a pleasure, man, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Man, it's an honor to call you guys friends. It's an honor to be on the podcast. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you, Bert. We'll see you in a few. Sounds good. Yeah, bud. All righty. Bye. I'm going back. I'm a loaded freight train, and I'm right on track.